Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of EV live on YouTube. About to react to what is, in my opinion, probably the most anticipated, exciting earnings report because Cybertruck is the most hyped Tesla product of all time and probably always will be. I don't think the Robotaxi or the Model 2 or any of that crap is actually going to create as much hype as the Cybertruck has, just mostly because Americans love their pickup trucks. So even though I may be hyped for some cheaper, three-wheeled vehicle in the future that focuses more on efficiency, that's not going to get grab as many clicks. That's not going to be as attention-grabbing as Cybertruck news. And we've been seeing Cybertrucks all over the place, sightings like crazy. I was actually just in San Francisco last night. I was shocked I didn't see one. Because I was seeing sightings posted online all the time. So I know they're around. I drove right by the Fremont factory, hoping that I would catch one, but sorry, you would have known about it by now if I did see one. But in about 10 minutes, actually less than 10 minutes now, Tesla's going to drop the shareholder deck, which is not the same thing as the earnings call. But in my experience, after being an investor and listening to all these announcements all these years, typically the shareholder deck is more interesting and provides more insight than the actual earnings call. Earnings call, sometimes they save some exclusive information for, but for the most part, it's just a bunch of retailers asking good questions that Tesla can't answer because Tesla, oh, we're going to wait till later to announce that. So I'm hoping that because Tesla, last we heard, was still promising Cybertruck deliveries before the end of the year. Now there's only like, what, 2.5 months left in the year. I'm hoping that today they actually provide some insight on at least, here's what I'm hoping for. Okay. I'm not going to get my hopes up for Cybertruck pricing or range figures. That would be great if they actually unveiled that and updated the website with new pictures and media. This is how that, by the way, the shareholder deck is how they dropped that in the past. Like when they refreshed the Model S and X with their new designs, that was through the shareholder deck. The Highland Model 3 refresh was not done through the shareholder deck. It was actually just spontaneously dropped by a CarWow video. But I'm hoping if Tesla is planning some kind of Cybertruck, maybe, you could argue that Model 3 Highland was different because it was only available in Asia and Europe and stuff. So maybe because the Cybertruck is definitely focused as a United States vehicle, it's an American product, then they would update us through the shareholder deck. My hope is we could at least get the launch date. That's all I'm asking for today. If we can get a launch date today, I'll be excited and I'll be happy. I'm not asking for much, okay? We can't keep our expectations out of control with Tesla. So all I'm asking for is for them to at least throw out, they probably won't stick to it, but at least throw out an event date. So much so to the point that if Tesla does not announce a Cybertruck launch date today, then I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to say there's something probably going wrong. There's another great channel called My Tesla Weekend um, that has been talking with some of the people who fly drones over the Giga Texas facility. And in his video talking about the Cybertruck potentially getting delayed again, he said that Tesla officials have asked some of the guys flying drones to no longer fly over the crash testing area. So there's been some restrictions applied to where the drones are allowed to fly. If there's a possibility that there's a Cybertruck delay, the concept of maybe it not being that great for crash testing and they need to make some changes to make it safer. Well, safety first, right? I could understand why it could get pushed back if it's for the sake of, well, we need to find a way to make it more safe and more reliable before we enter mass production. So basically what I'm trying to say is if they don't give us an event date today, I'll be more worried about the launch. Even more worried about the Cybertruck. Hey everybody. Um Guess what? Lucid spotted in Charleston, SC. I did see a Lucid Air yesterday in San Francisco. I should have mentioned that. But, it's hard to get excited for Lucid, knowing how poorly they're doing. Dare I hope that we finally see that fabled change to Cybertruck status in the deck? Did it not? I thought it changed last time. Let me test this, actually, because I'm going to have to react to things later. So if I switch over, you still want to see my face, right? But there's my face. Okay. It was down here. I thought it said like early. Yeah, it was in tooling, which I believe was the first time we got an update. Um my guess is maybe today, if we're lucky, if things are all going well and according to plan, then I think that this will say pilot production. If things are taking longer than they expected and it's not progressing how they had liked, then it's probably going to just say tooling again. But this was the last shareholder deck they dropped like 3 months ago. I don't even think I was in America 3 months ago. What was the one before that? What did that one say? Um, bad earnings. They haven't reported the earnings. How do you know how bad they are? Whatever. You're probably right. I do think the margin's probably taking a hit with all the price cuts. Oh no, it did say tooling. Okay. So it said tooling for the past two shareholder decks. What about the one before that one? I don't remember it saying tooling in Q4, did it? It said, no, it did. Jeez, okay, my memory's bad. Or I'm just clicking the same document over and over again. October of 2022. How long does it take to tool this assembly line? Wow. Am I clicking the wrong one? No, this was a year ago. It said tooling. Okay, never mind. I stand corrected. They've been tooling this thing for quite a while. I feel like they have low incentive to have Cybertruck ready given the current macro conditions. Uh, Personally, I think it doesn't really. Here, I'll just keep this behind me, make it easier for us. Da-da-da. You want the rest of the body? There you go. Um, I think the macro conditions are kind of irrelevant for the Cybertruck because the demand is so high. The hype behind it is so high that they can kind of charge whatever they want for it because there's so much pent up demand. There's so many. Even the Rivian Mike guy I talked to, who has a Rivian R1S and is driving around it, he still has a Cybertruck on order and he's still interested in one. He wants to test drive before he commits to a full purchase or something. But yeah, I just think that there's never been a vehicle as hyped or as uh, groundbreaking or as conversation starting as the Cybertruck. So, in my opinion, they don't really need to worry, at least in the first year of production, because I don't think they're going to build that many of them in the first year. I don't think they're too worried about demand. Like the demand obviously fluctuates depending on the price, right? So if the Cybertruck's $100,000, there's not going to be as many people interested as if it's $50,000. If it's $50,000, Rivian, F-150 Lightning, Chevy Silverado, they're all going to be a little bit concerned because Cybertruck's probably going to beat all of them in many ways. Um, and they still probably would be fine. But there's just so much demand surrounding it that I don't think most people are going to be worried about interest rates or the affordability for the first year. Because I think that the production ramp for the Cybertruck is probably not going to be. I mean, I think it'll be slower than the Model S and X just because of how complicated of a vehicle the Cybertruck is. And don't disagree with me on that because Elon is the one who has said on the record multiple times that it is not an easy vehicle to build and it's first of its kind and nothing they've learned from before can help them here. And it's a totally different. It's their first 1,000-volt architecture on a larger scale. Tesla semis kind of doesn't count. It's their first vehicle with rear wheel steering. It's their first vehicle with the steel exoskeleton. Hopefully, it's their first vehicle with the armored glass, but I'm not sure if that's been scrapped or not. It's also their first vehicle with a 48-volt low voltage architecture. It's got a new display. It's got a new interior components. It's their first vehicle with a electrical outlets that you can tap into as well as air suspension. It's their first pickup truck. It's their first vehicle with a tailgate. There's so many firsts with this that I don't think it's going to be just a piece of cake to ramp up production of it. But even if I'm wrong, I still don't think it'll ramp up as quickly as something like the Model Y. Although we have been seeing a lot of Cybertruck sightings around Giga Texas. Um, nothing close to the level of Model Ys we've seen. Drew, do I want a yoke? I do personally, but I know I'm weird. I wouldn't pay extra for one. Like right now, I think if you get the yoke with your Model X, it disqualifies it from the federal tax credit. And the yoke is already like a $250 option. So it basically costs you an extra $8,000 to get the yoke now on the Model X. And that's no. I'd like a yoke, but I don't want it that bad. The steering wheel I don't hate enough to. Although if you gave me the free option, Drew, would you like a free yoke or a free steering wheel? Yeah, I would take the wheel. Um, I look like those fake advisor bots. Yeah, I know. What time does it start? So the earnings call starts in an hour and a half, but the shareholder deck is actually going to drop any second now, which is, in my opinion, the more interesting part. That's where you get the pictures. That's where you get unveilings. That's where you get the numbers, the actual earnings. The earnings call is mostly just a chance for them to repeat what's on the shareholder deck and also a chance for them to answer questions. But truth is, I've been listening to these calls for years. They usually don't answer very many questions. There's good questions. There's like top questions that get voted on by other shareholders, and then Tesla says, "Oh, we can't talk about that yet," or they sidestep the question. They'll be like, "Oh, what do you think of your profit margins?" And Tesla will say, "Oh, it doesn't really matter. What matters is the full self driving because we're about to figure out full self driving, and then robo taxis will make us all of our money anyway." And it doesn't really address the question. So, do I like yolks in my omelet? Sure, yeah. Tesla isn't going to say anything about Cybertruck in detail till delivery event. I disagree. I don't think they're going to mention anything at the delivery event except maybe performance and air suspension towing capabilities, but in regards to pricing, no, I don't think they would do anything at a delivery event. They didn't do anything at pricing for the 4680 Model Y. They didn't do anything at the Tesla Semi event. So I hope we get pricing, but honestly, knowing how often Tesla changes their prices, they'll change. Most of the sexy lineup got like probably 15 or 20 different price changes this year. If you're going to change pricing on average once or twice a month, why would you unveil a price and commit to a price if you're going to change it in a couple weeks anyway? And personally, I think because the demand is so high for the Cybertruck and the supply is so low, they can charge whatever they want for it. I don't think they care about the federal tax credit. But my point is, you shouldn't worry about that. You shouldn't be so focused on what's the launch price going to be, what's the launch price is going to be, because honestly, I bet only like the first 5 or 10,000 Cybertrucks are going to honor the launch price, and then they'll change it again based on demand, based on public interest. It could go up again, or it could go down again, depending on if not that many people are interested. Um, let's see. Does Tesla have products showcased at all dealerships before released? I don't think, not all of them, no. Technically, they're not dealerships. They're like either service or delivery centers, but yeah, there's a lot of Tesla centers that don't really have anything new or fancy at them. Okay, I'm refreshing right now. Shareholder deck should drop any second. Uh, let's see. Do I need us to call the urgent care nurse for Lucid? Yes. Do I think they could release the Cybertruck when the new $7,500 credit is released? Taking that $7,500 off the actual price would make it cheaper and more accessible to more people. Again, that would be a great idea if they needed more demand, but that's the problem. The Cybertruck has way too much demand. According to reservation trackers, there's over 2 million reservations for it, and Tesla's, even if they hit volume production today, right now, they couldn't make a million Cybertrucks in 3 years. It would take them 4 years to make a million Cybertrucks. So I don't think they care too much about demand personally at this point. I'm just telling you from what I've seen in the past. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Tesla does prioritize affordability. That would be nice. I love it when Tesla cuts prices or when Tesla makes new products that are more affordable for the masses. Don't get me wrong. I love it whenever they do that. But statistically, I have not seen them honor that. Tesla doesn't just lower prices for the sake of, well, it would be nice. Tesla bases their price in that fulcrum point between supply and demand. They charge enough that they have enough demand to keep vehicles coming out of the factory and into the hands of customers, but low enough that there's enough demand coming in. And right now, that fulcrum point is way off. There's like no Cybertrucks available, and there's like millions of people that probably want a Cybertruck. So unless Tesla raises the price and narrows the interest from the market, there's just going to be an insane secondhand market of people that just buy the truck to flip it and scalp it. So either random people who take delivery can make the profit, or Tesla can make the profit and then use that profit to make the product better. So personally, I would rather them I would rather them take the profit themselves rather than sell them at a low price so that other people can scalp them, which is what happens if you are in a very demand heavy market with low supply. Let's see. How much longer after launch will right hand markets need to wait ever? Cybertruck is dimension. The Cybertruck dimensions are optimized for the United States, not for any other country. So I doubt that right hand drive Cybertrucks will be in the next probably 2 or 3 years, honestly. Probably a very long time. Cybertrucks that come to other countries, I doubt will even be made at Giga Texas. It'd probably make more sense to build them elsewhere because I think if you want Cybertrucks to launch in other countries, you're going to have to change the dimensions for pedestrian safety laws as well as roadways. It's just For the same reason you don't see that many F-150s outside the United States. The Cybertruck has dimensions close to that of the F-150, so that's probably why they're not going to ship that many of them internationally. Okay, let me see, because they still haven't loaded here. Maybe it shows up on Chrome. No, they still haven't dropped the shareholder deck, even on Chrome. Interesting. Okay, well, I'll keep refreshing. Deliver Cybertruck on Cyber Monday. That feels very appropriate. There's a lot of potential jokes with the cyber they could do. They could deliver on Cyber Monday, or they could wait till it's exactly 4 years since the Cybertruck unveiling event, because there was a whole Blade Runner joke about that. Like, the year is 2019. The atmosphere is full of toxins. Oh, it's up, it's up, it's up. Let's go. Let's take a look. We'll make it full screen here. Q3 update. More than doubled AI training compute. Uh-oh. I don't want to hear about AI. Free cash flow of 0.8 billion in Q3. Yeah, that's not as much. $3 billion increase in our cash investment. Okay, I'll look at the numbers later. Ooh, Cybertruck says pilot production capacity over 125,000. What? Or less. What am I reading there? Dang. Okay, so Cybertruck feels like it's entering. Okay, we began pilot production of the Cybertruck, which means on track for initial deliveries this year. We're expecting the Model Y production rate in Texas to grow very gradually from its current level. Production of a higher energy dense 4680 cell is progressing as planned, and we continue building capacity for cathode production and lithium refining in the US. Awesome. I like how they say various for next gen vehicle platform. Yeah, Tesla Semi still says pilot production. Dang, Shanghai is looking over 950,000 annual capacity. That's great. That's awesome. Berlin and Texas. Oh, Berlin is in the lead with Model Y production, 375,000, whereas Texas is just over 250,000. Awesome. Where are the pictures? Let me see the pictures. Affordability. Ooh. Cybertruck deliveries begin in November 2023. Oh, wow. Okay, they put a month on it. 1 millionth Model Y produced. Is that all the pictures? Oh, come on. I wanted more Cybertruck pictures. That was a beautiful photo, though. They committed November 2023. Okay, so at least we know it's not October. That's good. They're still discussing the price backstage. This is such a sweet shot. I love that. All the trucks on the back. Oh, beautiful. Wow. Okay. Well, they're not saying December. Cybertruck deliveries remain on track for later this year, but they're not. Okay, they almost gave me what I was hoping for, which was an event date. They didn't give us a date, but they gave us a month. Oh, what about this? Factory shutdowns in Q3 and ongoing ramp on average vehicle cost was 37,500, and we continue to work to reduce the cost further. For very heavy vehicles, a high voltage powertrain architecture brings noticeable cost savings, which is why Cybertruck will adopt an 800 volt architecture. See, before they said 1,000, now they're saying 800. What, can they make up their mind? Interesting. I want to see how the superchargers adopt for that. Cyber Monday is happening. Maybe Cyber Monday is it. Yeah. CarPlay is great, but not necessary if the manufacturer makes a better OS. Rivian and Tesla are the only manufacturers to do that so far. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you necessarily need CarPlay. CarPlay is not a bad addition if you don't have a great software team to design a native operating system. But yeah. Okay. Wow, we're getting Cybertruck capacity of over 125,000 already. That's exciting. This is good news. You know what? I'll give it to them. I appreciate that update. I wish they would confirm an actual date, but I don't see one. Increase in operating expenses driven by Cybertruck, AI, and other R&D projects. I care about one of those things. Combined gross profit generation of 0.5 billion in Q3. Our energy generation and storage business and services and other business have become meaningful contributors to our profitability. Good. Well, that's good to hear. I don't care so much about the operating margin, but they're at 7.6% operating margin, if you care. All right. Not as good as before, that's for sure. With those price cuts, that kind of makes sense and the higher expenses. But here's hoping that if they need to start cutting expenses, they cut it from AI and Optimus and all that, and just focus on ramping up Cybertruck, because I think that's going to be a cash cow. They can charge whatever they want for that, and they'll probably get it. Man. Yeah, it's been a steady decline since those 2022 margins, which were pretty great. But honestly, I don't need Tesla to be super profitable. I just want them to make cool stuff. Cyber Monday is happening. Let me see what else they got going on here. I just carried more about the battery powertrain and manufacturing. All Tesla rentals through Hertz in the US and Canada now allow Tesla app access. Smart. Cost of goods sold per vehicle. I like that that's coming down. So it's like the vehicles cost more in the old days, but I don't think they've shared that before. Cost of goods sold per vehicle. On average, it's costing them less than 37,500. Huh. Jackson Smith says, had to drop out before I started. What I miss. In my opinion, the most exciting update is this. This little chart has been updated for their annual vehicle capacity. They said the Cybertruck pilot production is already capable of cranking out over 125,000 vehicles a year, and that's best case scenario. That's if the factory doesn't shut down or have any problems. For the record, they never actually hit these numbers, so that's just like peak production. Yeah, they talk about it down here. Installed capacity does not mean current production rate. There may be limitations discovered as production rates approach. So that doesn't mean that Tesla is going to build 125,000 Cybertrucks in the next year. But it does point to the idea maybe 100,000 Cybertrucks. And the next big piece of information, of course, if we scroll down to the bottom, there's this little headline that says Cybertruck deliveries begin in November 2023. So we know it's not October. I'm hoping they do Cyber Monday, honestly. That would be perfect. But yeah, and they posted this beautiful photo of Tesla Semi carrying around 3 different Cybertrucks, which looks amazing. Love that. Um, there's just a Megapack factory. They built 1 million Model Ys in Shanghai, which is exciting. And then, yeah, operating cash flow, free cash flow. They're profitable enough in my head. It's like, yeah, maybe not as crazy profitable, but yeah, auto industry is definitely not as profitable as they are. At least they don't have strikes going on, right? Do we know if they're still using bulletproof glass for the production model? Technically, Ryan, they never said bulletproof glass. That was never promised. They said the steel was bulletproof. The glass they just said was armored. And also, bulletproof is not the same thing because all bullets are different and they come out at different speeds, different calibers depending on the gun. But the Cybertruck, when advertised originally, they said that the steel exoskeleton was bulletproof to a 9mm handgun. They didn't say the glass was bulletproof. We don't know if they're still rocking armored glass on the Cybertruck because they didn't talk about it during the Tesla Semi delivery event. They didn't say that's using armored glass, even though when they unveiled the Tesla Semi, they said it would. So I'm still unsure if they just scrapped the armored glass concept or are they. Oh, that's cool. Energy storage deployments, gross profit. That's finally been more profitable. That's good. As our global fleet size grows, our services and other businesses continue to grow successfully, with supercharging, insurance, and body shop and part sales being the core drivers to profit growth. Uh-oh. You don't want to brag about that, Tesla. We made cars that break, and then we made money on servicing those cars. Pay-per-use supercharging remains a profitable business for the company. Even as we scale capital expenditures, our team is focused on materially expanding supercharging capacity and further improving capacity management in anticipation of other OEMs joining our network. That's going to be a big deal when Tesla starts opening up the chargers for everybody else. In-app service. Anything else huge just showed up? I think this is the more huge news. I'm actually surprised they're willing to put a number on the pilot production. Because look, Tesla Semi has been in pilot production for like a year, almost a year, and they don't say the annual capacity. There's no annual capacity listed there. But over 125,000 for installed capacity right now, that's that's a big number, honestly. You think about, okay, even if I'm wrong and they're selling each Cybertruck for $80,000, $80,000 vehicles selling at over 100,000. I mean, Model S and X combined, which are in that price range, are just 100,000, and that's in Fremont. But Cybertruck, which is probably, in my opinion, going to be more expensive than the Model S and X for the first year, that has more annual capacity installed than the Model S and X. That's a big deal to me. Um, Too expensive, probably. Cybertruck is going to be very basic when it delivers. I think it will be very basic, but I don't think that means it'll be cheap. Why would it be cheap? Tesla doesn't keep prices low when demand is high. Roadster's been listed as in development for like 6 years now. That's not changed. They did add the various, though. Next gen platform. I don't even know why they include this in the list. At various regions, we're working on our next gen platform that is in development. It's like, why even mention that? Honestly, Roadster should just be canceled at this point. I would love to get an update on the progress of CCS access to superchargers. I know they said early 2024, but that's soon. Well, I think they've kind of clarified it as far as I can tell. They said there will be an adapter available that either Ford customers can buy from Ford, or I think Rivian customers get it for free. I think I heard. Depending on, it's up to the CCS manufacturer. Tesla just needs to update a line of software that says, hey, make sure that you charge a car if they plug in this new. Basically, you can buy your own Magic Dock, and as long as you go to a V3 supercharger and plug in the Magic Dock, you can plug in your CCS vehicle, and then you activate it through the Tesla app, I'm guessing, or for Ford, it's through the Blue Pass app or whatever. Um, that's not really up to Tesla, as far as I can tell. That's going to be up to the company who made your car. Will tell you how to do that. The production goes up mostly with efficiency calibration on the press. I don't know if it's purely the press, but yeah, I'm sure that helps. I'm buying a used smart car later today so I can save gas money to eventually buy a Cybertruck. Hey, there you go. Good for you. Rivian is giving them for free. Awesome. Thanks, Jody, for filling me in on that. Do we know if they're still? Oh, sorry, I answered that. Cybertruck deliveries begin in November. No Highland delivery date. The problem is the United States Tesla team has not acknowledged that Highland exists. That is still at this point exclusive to the European market and Asia and Australia. That's the only places where they acknowledge the new Model 3. They don't talk about it at all in the US. I haven't heard Elon talk about it at all. He hasn't tweeted anything in reference to it. And there are sources, I don't know if they're trustworthy, but the rumors going around are suggesting that the refresh Model 3 is not coming to the US until next year. So the fact that they're not talking about it here right now is probably an indication. Let's see. Other than schedule, yeah, see, they're just talking about the scheduled downtime. Our Shanghai factory has been successfully running near full capacity for several quarters. We do not expect a meaningful increase in weekly production run rate. Yeah, this is the factory that's building the refreshed Model 3, and they're not even addressing it. So I think it's awkwardly one of those things that Shanghai was able to implement really quickly, but Fremont was not. So the solution was, okay, let's just let Shanghai release it, and then Fremont can get to it when they can. But yeah, it's quite bizarre how little they address it. Elon hasn't tweeted any rest as if that means anything. Well, it's not like Elon saying something means it's going to happen, but I'm just saying Elon hasn't even talked about it. Like a lot of the time, Elon will just say yes, or when people tweet nice things about Tesla, he'll like it or retweet it or quote tweet it and say, most people don't realize Teslas can do blah, blah, blah. You know, he likes to boast about Tesla's vehicles, even if he doesn't work on them too much anymore. But he's done none of that with the upgraded Model 3. Any new tweets regarding the Model 3 saying, I love it, it's great, it's so much more capable, he doesn't acknowledge any of them. David Quigley says, over 125,000 implies 342 per day. That's more exciting than us freaking out over Joe Tegmeyer seeing 9 in a day. I know, that's why I'm impressed by that, because I haven't seen the sightings um, around the factory suggest that they could build 342 per day. But maybe they're just calibrating it and just trying out some things. But seeing them usually they're pretty hesitant to update this list, this little chart that says installed annual vehicle capacity. Usually they don't update that unless they mean it. So the fact that they're already listing pilot production to have higher capacity than all of Model S and X production, that's pretty exciting to me. That's kind of the big jump in your face, like, oh dang, they're serious. I wish they would have committed to a. I still wish they would have committed to a date. Cyber Monday, I think, would be perfect. I honestly think, off the record, they're probably already delivering Cybertrucks. We've been seeing them at people's houses. They're parked in people's driveways. Probably with some higher up executives at Tesla, they've already taken delivery and they're already trying them out and trying to iron out all the kinks with them. But November 30th, Cybertruck delivery. Tesla confirmed on X. Oh, they did? Where? Oh, wrong account. Hold up. Did they say the 30th? Oh, Cybertruck production remains on track for later this year. First delivery scheduled for November 30th at Giga Texas. Okay. Why didn't they put that in the shareholder deck? Awesome. We actually got one. Did they tweet it out? Oh, wow. Yeah, delivery schedule. I like how they said delivery start in November and they literally made it the last possible day of November. That's awesome. Cool, we have our date. That's all I wanted. Okay, I'm happy. I'm happy. I can die happy now. This is all I actually was hoping for. All I was looking for was an official delivery event date, which we now have, November 30th. Wonderful. Okay, I'm confused why they didn't want to put that in the shareholder deck, or maybe they did and I totally missed it. How come in the shareholder deck they're still saying things like Cybertruck deliveries remain on track for later this year, and then on Twitter they say November 30th? Did they talk about the new 3? Yeah, I don't think that's coming until next year. Max Cybertruck capacity exceeds that of Model S and X already. Yeah, that part surprises me. I'm perplexed by that because I'm like, we're maybe seeing on a good day 10 Cybertrucks come out of Giga Texas per day, and they're saying that the installed capacity unlocks 340 per day. Can we assume that's the date of the party? Probably, yeah. Which is funny because I know some people were assuming based on the Gigafactory tours that it was going to be end of October. So I guess that was wrong. Would they wait for all the Cybertruck delivery hype to die down before delivering Highland to North America? To me, it seems like that's what will happen, but it's more tied to manufacturing and is just coincidence. I don't think they're intentionally holding off. I personally think they're trying to get Highland ready in Fremont as quick as possible, but Fremont is just much harder to update. They're so much further from all their suppliers. Um, you know, half of our stuff gets built in China anyway. So when Giga Shanghai wants to implement a new change or use a new supplier, it's like boom, it's there. They can ship things really quickly. Just in time to put a stainless steel bow on one for Christmas. Why did they choose the very last day of November? That's interesting. We'll see if they change it. Tesla's changed their dates before. Wow, that's exciting. We have a date. How do I think they will manage the orders? I think using website data and maybe through some kind of verification process of your driver's license, they're going to, whoops, they're going to base it off of how close you are to Giga Texas. That's typically what they do in the past. Like the first people who got 4680 Model Ys had to be near Austin, and you had to prove you lived near Austin. By the way, you can't just say, "Oh, I'm technically there. I'll fly out there and pick it up," because they know everyone's going to do that. If they say that you just have to show up at Giga Texas to get your Cybertruck, then they're going to have 100,000 people show up, and that's not good. So I think they're going to reach out to you individually based on what your driver's license on file. If you already have a Tesla, they already have your ID and stuff. They know your place of residence, but if you've moved or something, maybe they'll send out emails or ask for like where you're located or proof of address. I think they're going to base it on location. They've done that in the past, and they might start shipping out a bunch based on regions where there's a lot of Cybertruck demand. So I'm sure California probably has a huge number of Cybertruck reservation holders. So they're more likely to ship out a big batch of Cybertrucks out there than they are, It doesn't matter if you reserved one on launch day. Personally, I don't think it makes any difference. Tesla's not going to be like, oh, Joe Schmo in Rhode Island ordered one 2 seconds before Frankie in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we need to make sure that Cybertrucks go to Joe Schmo, and the next Cybertruck goes to Frank. Like, no, they just ship them based on inventory availability and how quick it is to ship. And you think they'll limit it to one per person? Probably. I would imagine so. I know there's a lot of people with. Well, the truth is, I don't know if you can have more than one reservation truly. they got rid of a lot of the Cybertruck specs on the website. So even if you had a reservation, they kind of removed the trim you have and everything. So I don't think even the people with multiple reservations, I don't think that means anything differently to Tesla. They just all they know is there's someone in with that account, with that email address and that phone number that wants a Cybertruck. I don't think they're saying, "Oh, he wants 3 Cybertrucks. Okay, send him a whole Tesla semi full." I don't think they're gonna deliver multiple to one person personally, at least for quite some time. How about priority to prior Tesla owners? I wouldn't be shocked if that's how it works. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if most of the Cybertruck reservations are from existing Tesla owners. There's probably some people that have been waiting on their Cybertruck for 4 years but have never bought a Tesla. But I'm guessing it's not most. I think most of the Cybertruck reservation holders are previous Tesla owners. If they want to push sales to Model 3 due to media blitz of Cybertruck event, Heinz price cuts and not being in the middle of an upgrade. I think they probably want to update the Model 3 and get it in line with the Highland as quick as possible. There's really no incentive to waiting because all it does is hurt present day Model 3 sales. No mention of trims, huh? I see the price not being announced yet, but we'd all like to know how many motors the first batch has at least. If you want my guess, I think it's quad motor. We saw a picture of sorry, not quad. My apologies. Got Rivian on the mind. I've spent too much time in the Rivian. Um, Dual motor Cybertruck was leaked, and it looked pretty official. And knowing how Tesla likes to keep things simple, yeah, it was this picture, I think. Open, zoom in here. So this was a Cybertruck someone got up close to somehow, and the badging on the casting on the inside, it says variant dual motor. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it take my word for it if you can't see it. It says dual motor on that one. So I don't know. It doesn't guarantee that they're not also working on a tri motor or a quad motor. Who knows? But the latest rumors are suggesting that they're just building dual motor and then they'll save tri motor for later. I think their best bet, which is believable in my mind, I've seen other people suggest this as well, is that they want to try to get it close to the trims that they unveiled. They're not going to be as good, but they were wanted it to be as close as possible to the trims that they unveiled at the Cybertruck event back in 2019. And they said that the dual motor only had to get over 300 miles of range. So the 4680 cells are not that energy dense yet. We know that the Cyber cell, the cell that they're using in the Cybertrucks, is only 10% more energy dense than the first generation 4680 cell. We know the energy density of the first generation energy cell. So basically, I don't think 4680s are ready yet to do a 500-mile range Cybertruck and to keep things margin thick and to keep people wanting more. You know, you don't want to give them the best of the best on day one. You want to start with something that you can reliably build and consistently build. I think these are all dual motor Cybertrucks with a range around 300 something, 330, 340, somewhere in there. And they'll tell you later on we'll make a tri motor that has over 500 miles, and then we'll all be in this same speculation game again, going, when are we going to get more info on the tri motor? When are we going to get the tri motor? But I still think the dual motor will be exceptional. I think it will be very fast, very high towing capacity. Like, I don't think it's going to be a dumbed down dual motor. They're probably going to put in the same dual motor system that they put in the Model S and X, you know, with a 0 to 60 time of 3 seconds. Maybe with a bigger, heavier vehicle like the Cybertruck, that turns into 0 to 60 in 4 seconds or so. We still don't have the EPA range, no, but this is just my guess. I'm speculating that because of this picture we've seen that labels it as the dual motor variant, um, and because the energy density of the 4680 cells is not quite as good as they want it to be, I think the 500-mile range Cybertruck will probably be a lot more obtainable and a lot more doable once they get the energy density of those cells higher. And it's taken them, you know, how long has 4680 cells been in production? Like a year and a half now. It's taken, well, I mean, in production is in vehicles that are available on the market. I guess we can, I'll use this as my background because it's beautiful. November 30th. Remember the date, people. Where am I going to be November 30th? I don't know. I was not invited to the Cybertruck event. Do I need to switch this or I'll just sit over here? All right. So, um, the 4680 cells have been put into customer vehicles for over, I think, around a year and a half now. So it took them about a year and a half to get the energy density up 10%. Before they're ready to do a 500-mile range Cybertruck, they might need to get it up another 10 or 20%, because 500 miles of range is more so than it is an energy game. It's an efficiency game, and you can't really change the efficiency of the Cybertruck all that much because the form factor and the shape and everything is kind of set in stone. There's not too many aero things you can come up with. Um, so the question is, like, how lightweight can you keep the Cybertruck while still packing more energy into it? And I don't think the current 4680s, even the Cybercell, I don't think is quite ideal yet. You'd have to fit so many of those to get a, to surpass 500 miles of range. You're going to need, in my opinion, like bare minimum 180 kilowatt hours, more likely 200 kilowatt hours, and that's going to be a very, very heavy battery pack. So I don't think they want it to be that crazy heavy, so they're probably going to wait. I hope I'm wrong, though. It would be great if they actually start with the 500-mile range. It's probably going to be 300 to 350-mile range dual motor. Yeah, I think so. Ryan Harmon says, I'm assuming dual will be the most popular one if they end up with the original plan of 1, 2, and 3 motor. Well, here's the other smart thing. Personally, I think they're not doing a single motor. It's just pickup trucks. People use them for towing and off-roading and stuff. It's just Tesla only like a couple weeks ago finally made a rear-wheel drive Model Y in the United States. They've barely been making rear-wheel drive Model Ys. So if we do get a single motor Cybertruck, it's definitely not going to be soon. It could easily be like 3 or 4 years from now. But I wouldn't be shocked if they just never do single motor, because it's just weird to do a rear-wheel drive pickup truck. If anything, a front-wheel drive pickup truck actually might make more sense for towing stuff. But anyway, Tesla likes to keep things simple, and they don't like to have too much complexity with the manufacturing line. So the smart thing about starting with dual motor in the lower range is that there's a ton of, huge Tesla fans out there that are definitely going to buy the Cybertruck no matter what. It could be 200-mile range and $100,000, and some of these people are still going to buy it because they're going to use it for videos, make content out of it, and also, make rental revenue. Like the first year that Cybertrucks are available, any one of them you put on Turo, easy. I think you'll make $250, $300 a day putting that thing on Turo. Maybe more than that, honestly. You could probably charge $400 a day for the Cybertruck if you put it on Turo. And there's a bunch of people that have reserved as many Cybertrucks as possible simply so that they can add them to their Turo fleet. It's honestly the kind of vehicle I would rather rent than buy. I don't really run into a ton of circumstances where I need a pickup truck or I need to go off-roading or I need a big bed. But maybe if I'm moving something for a weekend or I'm just going camping for a couple of days, yeah, it'd probably be cheaper to rent a Cybertruck for 2 or 3 days than it would be to buy one outright and then pay for the registration and the insurance and the charging and all that. No, just buy one once, call it good. Um, People are saying Tesla Cybertruck X account has posted a pic. Is it a new picture? Oh my god. Where is it? Load, load. Oh, what the heck? Is this the actual? Oh, that is. Oh, I was like, that almost looked fan made. It reminds me of the original teaser, Cybertruck delivery event. Wow, that's awesome. That looks great. I'm sorry, I've seen so much fan made Cybertruck stuff. It reminded me of the original teaser image before the unveiling. Wow, that's cool. Delivery event date confirmed. This is good news. This is good news. We've still got 6 weeks though. Sheesh. Um, the thought that those wraps for the 3 and Y come to the truck, probably. I feel like they're definitely going to be wrapping Cybertrucks. Sorry, I got to finish my thought here. I keep getting distracted. There's so many cool pictures though. I love that. Okay, what I was trying to say is there are a bunch of diehard Tesla fans out there that will buy the Cybertruck no matter what, right? Doesn't matter what the range is, doesn't matter what the build quality is, they'll buy it. And those same people will take delivery of the launch model, even if it's just dual motor and 300-mile range. And those same people will also take delivery of the tri motor when that comes out later. They'll be first in line and they'll be happy to pay 100 grand, 120 grand for a tri motor Cybertruck. So if Tesla, let's say for the sake of the example, even if Tesla had the tri motor ready and they were capable of pushing it over 500 miles, then okay, you launch with that one. Some people buy it, but then down the road, when they unveil the dual motor with lower range, you're not going to get a second sale because the people who all got the tri-motor are going to be like, yeah, that's cool that you made a cheaper one, but I don't need the cheaper one. I got the more expensive one already. I'm good. So you only get one sale if you start with the tri-motor, but if you start with the dual motor, you'll probably get two. Because then the person who has the dual motor Cybertruck, because they were at the delivery event and they got the launch model, they're going to upgrade to the tri-motor, and then they're either going to trade in their dual motor or sell it to somebody else, whichever is easier for them or brings in more revenue. So financially speaking, I think it makes more sense to start with the dual motor. If you couldn't own a Tesla, what EV would you get if you had an infinite budget and has to be in production right now? Okay, so I know what you're saying. You're saying I can't say Aptera because obviously I want to have an Aptera more than anything right now. But if it's an infinite budget, probably a Rivian, to be honest with you. I've just been so happy with the R1S that I've on multiple occasions gotten to check out now, thanks to Rivian Mike, and I've posted a few videos on. Just I love the software, I love the look, and I love the capability. I don't really need a Rivian. Um, but I just the main thing I don't like about any other automaker, whether it's Hyundai with the Ioniq or the e-trons or the Volkswagens, or they're good cars, but they just have kind of cruddy software. And I've realized more and more as time goes on, I'm really more of a fan of software than anything. I like cars that have a really good software system. But what's more important to me than software is efficiency, I should say. Which is why even if an Aptera has kind of clunky software, I don't mind. I'd rather have a car that can charge itself. But that car's not in production yet, and I know the Ionic 6 is super efficient. I personally like the Ionic 6 design, but I don't love the software. I've seen that display, and I'm not sure if I could put up with that just for the sake of well, it's more efficient. Um, but yeah, here's the original teaser image back from 2019. They're clearly paying homage to that, which was totally a cheat. This looked nothing like the actual Cybertruck if you look at it. It's got extra angles and they put the Tesla logo there and just it did not look like this. They were like, "Hey, you thought you knew what the Cybertruck would look like, huh?" It's like, "Well, yeah, you gave us a fake image. Of course we got it wrong." But wow, that is exciting. I really hope Tesla gears the Cybertruck towards towing capacity and efficiency slash range over acceleration and speed. I would much rather an F-150 owner buying a Cybertruck than a Model Y owner. Well, acceleration and speed are not really necessarily things that Tesla. I mean, yes, they have their performance models, but it's usually just a side effect of an electric powertrain. When you don't have a transmission and you don't have a gearbox and you just have a really powerful electric motor, like they tend to go hand in hand. If you make something that's really powerful with a lot of horsepower and a lot of torque, which you're going to need for a massive towing capacity. If you want to be able to tow 10,000, 14,000 pounds, you need a very powerful motor. And it just so happens that if it's an electric motor, you can also dump a bunch of energy into it very quickly, which allows you to accelerate very fast. So I still think even the dual motor Cybertruck will probably be very, very quick. I just, I don't think that that necessarily means they're not focusing on efficiency and range. um, Tesla is not going to be able to get the regular construction worker boss to switch from an F-150 to the Cybertruck unless they match the specs. Until they do, they will get people who drive SNXs. I don't think Tesla cares for the first few years of production. A sale is a sale to them. I agree with you. There's way too many people buying pickup trucks that don't really need them. And is it really accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy if all you're doing is selling someone with a Model X a Cybertruck, which is now going to use more energy? I agree. It's weird, but that's a cultural buying behavior problem. Tesla can't really change that. They can't really make sure that the only people who take delivery of a Cybertruck is someone with a gas pickup truck. They have no way to verify that. Um, and you're going to get people who want to buy the cutting edge, latest generation tech. You're going to get that no matter what. So because this is just such a weird, different, unique vehicle, the first year, I guess, of demand and purchases are probably not going to be a good indication of what is the demand for this truck really like, because you're going to have to get through the order backlog of just diehard Tesla fans, and that's going to skew the data a little bit. I actually would like to see, are they still using the old fashioned Cybertruck? Oh, help me choose. See, they need to add Cybertruck to this list here. It's all the way over here. And did they update it? Nope. Still has the old design, still has door handles, still no mirrors. Still has the same old pictures. They haven't changed any of this. The bed doesn't look like that anymore. I don't think the brake lights look like that anymore. Interior does not look like that anymore. See, this is what I feel like they need to update. This is what deserves a site refresh. If you hit order now, there's no specs or anything. Fully refundable. You will be able to complete your configuration as production nears. Okay. See, this is where I would put new videos and pictures so people can get their expectations in check. Um, let's see. Do I think quad motor will be a thing? Personally, no. I know why Rivian went with the quad motor, and it is very capable for off-roading and rock crawling and stuff. And there's all kinds of different driving modes you can do whenever you have four motors. Like Rivian's working really hard right now on their dual motor system, which is good and it's more efficient, and I like that about it. But the only drawback of that is the drive modes can't be as individualized because you only have two motors instead of four. And personally, based on the look of the Cybertruck, I don't think it's going to be that great at off-roading. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you guys just want me to be the Tesla guy that just says nothing but good things and only praises the Cybertruck and says that it will change the world and it will fly and it will cure cancer. I know that does sound fun, but just looking at the Cybertruck prototypes that have been cited and the wheelbase of the Cybertruck, it's not, you can just tell it doesn't take a software update. It doesn't take even your ride height necessarily. Sometimes just the way um, the vehicle's designed is not optimized. I mean, the problem is Tesla's going after the F-150 because that's the most popular model, but when you have wheels this far apart from each other, rock crawling is not ideal. And there's some shots from behind, like this is a good example, when that back bumper gets that close to the ground, it's your departure angle. This is going to scrape if you're doing all kinds of off-roading stuff. That's going to bump against the ground. There's a good example someone tweeted. Let me see if I can find it. Cybertruck and R1T. So sometimes when people find a Cybertruck, they park the Rivian next to it. So you can see, here's a good shot. I actually haven't seen this one. That's cool. The departure angle on the Rivian is very high, which means the Rivian can be going up to a rock crawling area and peak up very quickly without scraping the back, whereas the Cybertruck has this really fat, low hanging bumper, which, you know, if you're using it like an F-150 and you just want range and efficiency, is probably not that big a deal. But if you're off-roading with it, that is a problem. So my guess is that Tesla is not prioritizing off-roading too much with the Cybertruck. So if off-roading is not a big priority for the truck, then quad motor does not have that many advantages. Quad motor just adds to the overall cost. This was the picture I was thinking of. You can really see how far down that back bumper gets. Quad motors weakens your efficiency. It adds to the complexity of the manufacturing line. It worsens your range. So there's just a lot of downsides to quad motor, and really the only upsides, in my opinion, are off-roading stuff. And I don't think the Cybertruck is being geared for that crazy of an off-roading system. If all you're doing is just going fast and you want to have tight maneuvering with the rear wheel steering and all that, and you just get dirty a little bit, dual motor's fine. Dual motor and tri-motor will get the job done, no problem. But if you're looking at rock crawling where you have individual tires coming off the ground, sure, that's when quad motor starts making sense. But this vehicle, to me, does not look like Tesla's focused on making it that great at rock crawling stuff. Um, and even the max height doesn't necessarily make a big difference if that's still the way the back end looks. I've seen it at max height though. I still have video of that somewhere. Where is it? I think it's in. I have a very low quality version of it. I think I called it. Yeah, this one. I don't even know if this is what it'll really do, but someone got a low quality video of it and it's super tall. I still don't think with that back bumper as low as it is. The problem is the wheelbase, honestly. It's too far. So when you're going over a rock, the rock is going to bump up here, whereas when you have a shorter wheelbase, it's less likely to bump. So I'm sure it'll do better at off-roading than a Model Y or a Model X, of course. But all that to say, if you're designing a bumper like this, then If you're designing a bumper like this, then I don't think you're making a quad motor, personally. I could be wrong, but that's my personal theory. Um, I know I'm trying to move the pictures out of the way if possible. It's this stupid overlay thing. I feel like your point of word of mouth will do more convincing to truck people instead of specs. If they hear from someone they know about how much the Cybertruck can do, they'd be more interested. Yeah, I agree. I think word of mouth and knowing someone that has one has a much greater effect than numbers on paper. No one's really going to believe what the company says. They want to hear what a third party has to say, which is it could help if you watch a YouTuber review it and talk about their likes and don't likes because it feels a little bit less biased than the company who actually made it telling you should buy this. It is the most amazing product ever. Oh, okay, I believe you. That's less likely. But if someone you know gets one or someone you watch online gets one and says, "Oh, here's some things I don't like, but here's some things it's really good at," then that holds some more credit to it. And I think the first year is not going to be a good way to gauge Cybertruck demand because there's just so many huge Tesla fans that are going to buy it no matter what. Um, I personally don't care about extreme off-roading. If it can drive over tall grass and through fields, I'm fine. Yeah, you can do that with a dual motor. I don't think most people are getting it to truly go off-roading anyways. I agree. I honestly feel that about most Rivian customers. I don't think most Rivian customers are actually taking their vehicles off-road all that much or on that rigorous of an off-roading experience. Some people, yes, really do take advantage of it, but I think most Rivian people will probably be totally fine with the dual motor. Um, let's see. Uh, maybe I'll check out Gregor Truck soon. Aptera for the win. Any of the $125,000 tri motors? Who knows what it'll cost? Who knows when the tri motor will even come out? In my opinion, we're probably not even going to see a tri motor until maybe a year or two from now. Someone will have a lifted Cybertruck. Oh, yeah. People are going to mod the crap out of these things. I mean, look at them. It's just asking to be modified, you know? It's a car modder's dream. But I'm excited that we actually have a confirmed date. Like, oh my God, how long has it been? We've been talking about this freaking truck for 4 years now. Sheesh, it's been so long, and we're actually about to get like, all right, here's a day. Here's when it's happening at this location. We're going to hand over some Cybertrucks, probably just to employees, but still, they will be out, and hopefully we actually get some specs on them. Range would be nice. Motors 0 to 60 time, towing capacity, all that stuff would be great, but I don't know. Where's Gregor Truck? I want to see that picture. I didn't see the one with the max height suspension. Oh, who recorded this? You slash Rotor Drew. Dang, there's a high quality video. I guess it was just the zoom. When he zoomed out, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a smartphone. But, oh, not a copyrighted music. Mute it. Look at that. 4 Cybertrucks and a Model Y. Oh, 2 Model Ys. Dang. Ew, a diesel semi truck. Disgusting. Beautiful. Yeah, they got those big old things on the back. I don't think quad motor is very specific, honestly. It's for very specific uses, and I don't think the Cybertruck is trying to be very specific. I think it's trying to be a general all-purpose pickup truck. It's going after the F-150. It's not going after the Jeep. Um, I don't know if it was max height, yeah. Automakers noticed this by adding off-road packages to family SUVs that don't even have the ability to lock the center coupling. Well, it is true that the R1S, see, I have footage of it we could watch here together in my B-roll folder down here. The R1S has a tighter wheelbase, which is why it's actually better in many off-roading situations than the R1T because front and back tires closer together, so you're less likely to click on some rock. But yeah, honestly, I loved filming this outdoors. This vehicle was just made to be outside. It just looks so at home in the dirt and the grass. It looks much better, honestly, when it's in the woods opposed to on some road. It's so cool. I love that look. Although I will say it's if you're used to driving a Model 3 all the time like I am, it is kind of jarring to drive a vehicle that large. it's very easy to drive. It's a very comfortable ride quality and everything, but you're really high off the ground and you feel a lot wider than you do in a Model 3. Honestly, I think that could end up being a big problem for people with the Cybertruck is they're going to be used to driving Teslas because that's what they know and love. So they're used to driving around sedans and crossovers, and now suddenly they're going to get in a much larger pickup truck and realize, oh dang, this thing is wide, this thing is big, this thing is long and heavy, and it's kind of hard to park sometimes, or it's kind of hard to navigate. Even with that rear wheel steering, it's just you got to be more conscious of your size when you're driving a vehicle like that. Um, let's see. How much storage do I have again? In what? The Model 3 or my phone? You got to get more specific than that. How long did the transition from deploying V2 to V3 superchargers take? How long do you think it will take for Tesla to start deploying V4 superchargers in mass instead of V3? About the same. Yeah, I guess about the same. V4 is a bit more complicated. I'm assuming it can sustain higher voltages, but also the cables are longer, which means I think objectively V4 superchargers are probably more expensive to build, but they're probably. I'm trying to find a picture. There's been a lot of V4 sightings, though. I think honestly they've probably already started. There's one in Columbia. There's one in Atlanta. There's been a lot of sightings. This one we talked about in Prattville. Or no, that's yeah, Georgia. I think we saw one in Oregon. But yeah, they're going up right now in many locations all over the United States, which in my opinion is a good sign because that means it's not just one prototype facility that's outside Giga Texas. It's like all over the country, which implies that they are already mass producing V4 chargers and that they can just kind of ship them everywhere at once and start deploying them. Honestly, I think it would be really cool if when they talk about the charging speed and the charging curve of the Cybertruck, they also mention, and we can achieve faster Cybertruck speeds thanks to V4, which we've already deployed, a dozen V4 superchargers, and we're going to build more every day. That would be cool. Um, well, they're V4 dispensers, I should say. We don't actually know if the cabinets on the back end are V3, which would support the higher speeds, but as far as I can tell, those can be updated with time. Um, but yeah, I think the V4s, it's probably a safe assumption. I'm not going to get what I want because that's how life normally works, but um, it's probably a safe assumption to assume that these are V3 cabinets on the back end. They're just V4 dispensers, which is still a good thing to have because the V4 is going to be very helpful for charging non Teslas, which the Tesla network is about to start opening up. So if you can just drive any electric car, Tesla or non Tesla, and the cable is long enough and you don't have to occupy two spaces and you can just plug in and start charging, that's a win. That's still a good thing. We should still be excited for that, but will these stations support higher speeds for the Cybertruck higher voltage architecture? I hope so, but wouldn't be shocked if it's not. At least in Europe, V4 uses V3 cabinets, so it's the same speed. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's important to also acknowledge, guys, like even if these V4 superchargers supported 350 kilowatts or 500 kilowatt, I don't know. Even if they supported higher speeds, your Tesla still has its own peak speed. You know, your Tesla is still capped at 250 kilowatts or less if you have a, LFP like I do and it's 170 kilowatt peak. So even if the station can support higher speeds, unless there's some faster speed that Tesla doesn't tell us about or there's some software update that can launch, as far as we can tell, that our current Teslas on the road are not capable of going over 250 kilowatts. So even if these were a V4 on the back end, you probably need a Cybertruck to see speeds much faster than 250. Um, how much storage do I have on my computer? Like 8 terabytes or something crazy. I keep a lot of B-roll on here because of how much videos I make, and I'm talking about all kinds of different topics all the time. So I have a lot of. Let's see if I just do community B-roll. It's like 300 gigs of just my own fan made B roll that I use for different videos. And then I have tech footage B roll. It's probably not as much. Yeah, 73 gigs of that. And then I have Tesla B roll, which is not by me, but it's by Tesla. And There's not as much as that, but there's videos that Tesla posts that I reference in my videos and stuff. So there's a lot of crap on there. The Ionic 5 only gets 50 kilowatts at the V3 supercharger, so it's a bummer for Hyundai customers. Yeah, that's assuming that they don't change the battery pack in the Hyundai to split the pack so it can become a lower voltage, which I think they might do, but I don't have evidence. I'm speculating on that. I believe I've heard that Ionics can use the regen inverter from their powertrain to get up to 100 kilowatts, but I don't know if they need a new vehicle for that. Um, who's taking bets for the first Cybertruck accident? I give it till December 2nd. There's probably already been one. We just don't know about it yet. They covered up the tracks very quickly. But yeah, this is, in my opinion, the most eventful earnings report in quite some time. This was very exciting. Actually, getting a launch date for the Cybertruck is great news. Um, let's see. There's not going to be able to see anything with that A pillar. You'd be surprised. Your mind kind of fills in the gaps. Um, Deploying V4 superchargers in mass. Yeah, I think there's a decent chance. I mean, let's see the Tesla charging account. Are they still announcing V3s? Is that happening on like a daily basis? Yeah, I guess so. This is a V3 that I don't know if it just came online, but they announced it 2 hours ago. There's a new V3 charger. 8 hours ago, another 8 stall V3. 22 hours ago. Wow, that's amazing. There's been three new V3 superchargers announced in the past 20. Oh, I take that back. Four. This says 23 hours. Dang. And then a different set of them, or just one yesterday, and then another one, two, three before that. So yeah, it seems like they're still at least tweeting about V4s. I mean V3s coming out. So I don't know exactly how long these have been online. The Twitter account might not necessarily tweet it the second it becomes available, but yeah, I think that once V4 is in volume production, they'll probably stop building V3s just because the cables are too short and they got to optimize for all EVs now. Any speculation on used Model 3 prices once Highland releases in the US? Honestly, used Model 3 prices already are very, very good. You can find them for under $30,000. Um, the sweet spot that is very hard to find, but is very possible, is that there is actually a used EV federal tax credit, but it only counts if you're able to buy it for under 25,000. So what happens is any used Model 3 that dips below $25,000 instantly gets picked up because that $25,000 EV quickly becomes a $20,000 EV. So I've heard of a few people. They're pretty hard to find, obviously, because obviously there's a big jump in affordability there. So anybody that finds a $25,000 Model 3 grabs it really, really quickly. So they don't last very long, but I think that's basically the floor you're going to see, especially with the refreshed Model 3. That's probably going to uptick a lot of demand and maybe decrease the demand for a lot of the old fashioned Model 3s like mine, which is fine because I wasn't going to sell, but I love my car. But yeah, I think the floor is going to be around 25K. That's going to be like the lowest they get. And then if you're lucky enough to find any that dip below 25, they'll probably be bought very, very quickly because of that federal tax credit on the used EVs for like 4,000. So yeah, I think that they'll be more affordable than ever. I think a lot of people will be interested in those. Hopefully, as word gets out, people start realizing that your maximum range doesn't really matter all that much. What matters is your charger network and your charging curve, which, yes, even the used Model 3s that are going for under $30,000, they still have knacks. They may not be the best build quality because they're older and they probably don't have the fastest infotainment because they're running on an Intel processor and they got that kind of scratched up piano black center console. But if you're trying to save some money and you're willing to put up with some cosmetic issues or some dated firmware, dated hardware for the self-driving computer and all that, and you're just fine with, okay, does it charge? As long as it can supercharge, I can road trip with this thing. I just heard that they're not building V3s anymore, so these must be from old production. Could be, could be. Honestly, I've seen Tesla tweet out things on the Tesla charging account that have been available for the masses for like weeks. Sometimes they just kind of stagger the tweets. Um, so it's possible that those V3s that they're tweeting about have been out for a while. Um, everyone's asking for the plus one. I wish they would bring back the invites because there were a couple of my friends that really wanted to go to the Cybertruck delivery event, but then they were trying to. I promoted their referral code as much as I could. I was pushing their code so that they can get enough credits to go. And then before they had enough referrals, they had enough orders, but they didn't take delivery in time. And then Tesla removed it from the referral program. Um, but maybe they brought it back. I haven't actually checked. Let me look real quick. I'm gonna open the referral section of the app. Referral awards. They're giving away a Model Y long range. Don't fall for that. Um, that's a mistake. Redeem. Cybertruck sweepstakes. No, I don't see it. I hope it comes back because I really want my friends to be able to go. I know how badly they wanted to go. Hmm. Well, be on the lookout though. Yeah. Referral programs are cool. It's great that Tesla rewards people who recommend the product. Okay. So we've only got about 29 minutes to go until the earnings call begins. At this point, I feel like the shareholder deck was kind of the biggest news. That was where most of the announcements were. So they're probably not going to unveil or announce that much new information during the earnings call. But who knows? Maybe they've got some. It would be cool if they talked about the range or the pricing that they're structuring. They don't even have to give us a specific number. If they just say they expect the Cybertruck to qualify for the federal tax credit, that's big news. If they just said that we think it will qualify, that's that means sub $80,000, which for some people that's incentive enough. Like, yep, okay, I'll take it. Sounds good. Wow, energy storage deployments reached an all-time high. That's cool. I didn't notice. I didn't notice that. How has the market been reacting to it? The past 6 months. Okay, it went up 1% after hours, but it's down 4.7% today. It looks like everything's down. Oh, geez. Lucid hitting new lows. Oh my God. They went down 10%. Now they're down to $4.50. Dang. Poor Lucid. They are not doing well. Rivian down 9% too, but they've got a lot of cash in the bank. I think they'll be okay. Whew. Hi, Canoe. How you doing? We're becoming a penny stock very quickly, aren't we? Oh boy. You probably missed the earnings call. That's fine. Honestly, like, I could stick around for the earnings call, but I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna be able to top the news that I've already seen on Twitter. I think I agree, Hastix. You probably got most of the exciting information already. So, of course, you'll see tweets and you'll see headlines if they do announce some big thing like here's the range or here's the price. Found a supercharger that was placed along the route I often take. Now the minimum range Tesla can make the drive even in winter. Awesome. Yeah, that's my experience too. I haven't really found that many places where my car couldn't go, even though I have like one of the lowest range Teslas. It's really not a range game, I'm telling you. It really just comes down to, I mean, I was just talking about this with Rivian Mike yesterday. He was the one telling me, like, people don't talk about range in gas cars. That's because there's so many gas stations. Like, you don't have to plan your trip around where the gas station is. You just know wherever you go, there's going to be a gas pump nearby. So you don't really care what your maximum range is. We need to get to that point with EVs. If we just have a flood, if we just have an ocean of chargers everywhere that are reliable and consistent, then your range isn't going to matter because you'll just go for several hours. Because, even with my car with like a 250-mile range, you can go well over 3 hours without stopping. And then after 3.5 hours, 4 hours, or whatever, you're ready to stretch. You're ready to use the restroom anyway. Just charge up. Hopefully, there's a charger not too far away. And I think that's what Tesla's doing. I think they're accepting that. That's the future. Model Y remained the best selling vehicle of any kind in Europe year to date. Similar to Texas, further production ramp of Model Y will be gradual. They don't say greater than 375,000. Berlin's been around for a while, I feel like. Was Model S and X at 100,000 last time? I'm trying to remember. Or is that a higher number? Let's see, the last shareholder deck. I had an EV with 80 miles of range a few years ago. Not great for long trips, but daily use just fine. Yeah, most people don't drive that in a day. Yeah, okay, it's been 100,000 for a while. I'm just making sure. Boy, it's feeling more real. It's nice to, it's one thing to see Cybertruck sightings all over the place, but to actually see the status and the capacity updated with real numbers and to see them commit to a delivery event, that's pretty cool. That's kind of exciting. All right. What do you guys think? Should we stick around for the earnings call or should we wrap it up here? Maybe I'll run a poll. Um, where did I put it? There you are. Should I react? Because I honestly don't think they're going to be able to top that. Oh, take it away. Should I react to the call? Leave it up to you. I guess there's some interesting questions like they're going to ask when the new Model 3 comes to the United States. I don't think they're going to answer that. I think they're going to say, we can't comment on future product. Okay. Well, what can we ask? You can ask questions that we've already answered in the shareholder deck. How soon till EPA numbers? Honestly, it could literally drop at any minute. At this point, if first deliveries are end of November, we got the 4680 Model Y EPA numbers like 2 months before the delivery event, I think. So it depends if they're keeping it internal, like they're keeping the range. They're keeping the deliveries to people who work at the company, then they don't technically have to submit the EPA range documents. So they could push it off till the very last minute. Who knows? But I just like knowing we have a date now. That makes planning my my workload. It'd be like, okay, don't do anything on that day. That's the day when hopefully we get some more information on the truck. Hopefully they update the website finally. That would be refreshing. Um, but and the installed capacity makes it feel a lot more real. That's for sure. That's what makes it official for me. Huh. Well, I mean, most of the time people aren't even getting the range number when you think about it. Sorry. I lost the YouTube app is lost the chat. There it is. Got it. Okay. Um how do you guys feel about the look of V4 versus V3? I like the clean, like minimalistic what is it called? Obelisk look of V4. But honestly, once I saw someone compare them in person, they noticed how much more like visual space V4 takes up. Like you can't see through them, and that kind of makes it a little harder visibility wise. It's just like I don't know. They're like big enough that you could hide behind them, which makes it a little scarier or something. Like someone could just pop out behind a V4. But I don't know. Maybe if they're oriented in the right way, like if they're flat, maybe it's not as big a deal. But when they're off to their side, I saw a picture and it just occupied a lot more visual space. It is bigger, yes. V4 is larger, which I would assume is a good thing. You would think that means higher voltages, or it's definitely longer cable length, which will solve a lot of CCS issues. Reminds me of the rectangle in 2001: A Space Odyssey. They should make that. That Tesla should work on cyberchargers. They're just charging stations for Cybertruck. And they're all like it's a big triangular mirror. It looks kind of like the first generation Starlink router. And they've got they're all pull through, they're all optimized for Cybertrucks that are towing. And if you try to plug in a regular Tesla or any other vehicle, it just won't work. It only can be the Cybertruck. You get your own exclusive. Actually, this is an idea I've been pitching for a long time that Tesla has not talked about doing, but I still think is a good idea. Mega chargers, which they've talked about for the Tesla Semi, They should get their own. They should unlock availability for Cybertrucks. Like maybe the Cybertruck could have an adapter or uh, some way so that if you go to a mega charger, which is obviously going to be optimized for a Tesla semi, so that you can pull through it with a trailer, charge it up really quickly. And if the Cybertruck's supposed to be designed on this super high voltage architecture, um, I know I have pictures of it somewhere. Yeah, these are mega chargers. This is not V4. Um, they have a different connector as well. So maybe I think it'd probably be too much money to put the new connector on the Cybertruck itself. That's going to be too much additional high voltage wiring. But this connector, if you built that to NACS adapter and then just let the Cybertruck, software wise have access to mega chargers, I think that would be cool. If you make sure that the only people who can buy that adapter are verified Cybertruck customers. And if you try to take a normal Tesla to that charger, it just says no, it won't work. It's like unable to charge. But still, I think that would be a great way to alleviate some of the towing concerns people have of like the Cybertruck range isn't good enough, or I'm gonna have to unhook my trailer or take up a bunch of stalls whenever I tow with a Cybertruck and have to plug in. Special edition for the 100,000th. Oh yeah, that's true. We got a special deep red. Where is it up here? I got to check it out actually. And what upset me was a couple of days, only a couple of days after I checked out the supercharger, there were pictures of a Cybertruck there. So I was like, ugh, there's a Cybertruck close by and I didn't see it. I really want to see one. But yeah, it does look cool. I like when they celebrate it a little bit. They brag about how many charging locations they have. Honestly, that's a really great flex towards any other charger provider of like, oh yeah, by the way, we just celebrated 50,000. What are you guys at? And they're like, we're celebrating 3,000. Tesla's like, oh, that's cute. Good luck with that. I like the white. Looks very clean. I know you're talking about V4, but I'm going to assume you were talking about my car because it's white on the inside and outside, just like me. That makes sense. It does look like a PlayStation 5, though. Seriously, why are they updating the website, the shareholder deck, with pictures like this and giving us a delivery event, but they still won't update the landing page? Come on. Does not look like this anymore. This is not an accurate depiction. You know what I think it is? I don't know what it is. Something about the original prototype looks better to me than the new one. If we just look up Cybertruck sighting, I think it has something to do with the battery pack. Where's a picture of one? Well, this is kind of an unflattering angle, but it proves my point. So the battery pack, I'm guessing, ended up taking up more floor space. Thank you, Hastix. The battery, I think, ends up taking more floor space than they thought. Oh yeah, here's a good actual comparison. You notice how low to the ground the floor of the Cybertruck gets versus the original? It's not just the ride height. The ride height is part of it, but it's like the top, what do you call it? What do you call that? The main body of the original Cybertruck prototype felt thinner. It felt skinnier, probably because it didn't have a full-size battery in it. But then with the prototype, it has to get thicker. They have to make room for all those cells that maybe weren't as energy dense as they were hoping. So you just get this kind of fatter look to it, I guess. I don't know. That's just what I'm noticing. Do you guys prefer the look of the prototype, or what did the poll say? All right. Y'all want me to react to the call. Okay. All right. I'm just making sure. I'm just trying not to bore anybody. Where did I put that? There it is. I don't know. I think it's something to do with the proportions of that flooring. It just feels like there's so much more room under the floor on the prototype compared to the production model. The gray is the best color mixed with white interior. That's interesting how wrong you are. I'm just kidding. Hastix likes the prototype more. I mean, I do like the lack of door handles. That's very minimal. Um, I don't see the need for door handles on a vehicle like this. I honestly, I'd be okay with ditching the door handles on all Teslas in favor of the door button. They did that on the Mustang Mach-E, and I really liked it when I checked it out. It was just very intuitive and very simple. You just push a little button, and then the door pops out. I don't like the current. I've given so many people rides in my Model 3. You know, when it was new and it was like I've never seen a Model 3 before and I first checked one out, I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool. The door like it rotates, the door handle pivots. It's so fancy and futuristic." But now having given so many friends and family members rides, I'm kind of sick of it. I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of like, "Okay, I'm tired of explaining to people how you're supposed every single time. They're like, "How do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it?" And I'm just like, "Ugh, they designed it to be more aerodynamic, so it's kind of weird." And I'm like, just do a button. A button is so much more self-explanatory. They walk up, there's no door handle. They see a little notch cut out thing with a little button area. They just push on it and pull. It's far more intuitive that way, in my opinion. And I've seen videos of people getting into the new Cybertrucks, and there's just a little column over here off to the side that you just push and it pops open. Um, I feel your pain. There was a Cybertruck sighting in my city, and I missed it. I'm with you there, Sonny. Prototype looked more badass for sure with that theme music as it came out. Yeah, it was the Brothers in Arms from the Mad Max soundtrack. I hope they play that again, although I will have to mute it. What changed here? There's something. Here's the prototype, right? This is from 2019. That's a low quality. Oh no, it updated. Look at the look at the departure angle here. See how see how much more drastic that slope is on the back? Okay, so remember that. And now look at the more recent models. They have all this additional plastic underneath with that bumper. I don't know, maybe this is more accurate. That's a prototype image, but I don't know. It's a bit more rounded on the back. Whereas, yeah, there's a good shot of the back. It's got this big old clunk. What is all that? What's under there? Why do they need all that? That's just going to eat into your departure angle. Um, I want a Cybertruck sighting over here in Germany. That would make me excited. I wish they designed a smaller one, honestly, so that it would be more global friendly. I'm realizing the more and more I play around with larger vehicles, the more and more size sensitive I am. Like, I'm not that interested in the Cybertruck, not because of the design. I like the design. I like the fact that this will probably be fairly aerodynamic because I'm a big efficiency guy and I'm looking for if I did one day decide I wanted a pickup truck, not in the near term future, but if I was in the market for one, probably my favorite is going to be the one with the best efficiency. Right now, that's the dual motor Rivian. So if I had to pick one, it'd be a Rivian. But we don't know the efficiency of the Cybertruck yet. I have a feeling it's not going to be as good as the Rivian simply due to the frontal surface area and the overall size is quite large. And I don't think it's going to be very light. I know some people out there that think it's going to be ultra light, but I think it's probably going to be the least efficient Tesla, at least the first generation. Yeah, even later generations, Aero is not friendly to trucks, that's for sure. But this design does look more aerodynamic than a Rivian. It's just bigger. So I guess the question is, will the aerodynamic shape of the Cybertruck allow it to get better aerodynamics than a smaller pickup truck? Because clearly a Rivian isn't as big. Um, I would love a smaller Cybertruck, honestly. If they could fit Cybertruck style, the exact same look, just shrink down the proportions to be a little bit smaller than a Rivian R1T, then it would be my favorite pickup. That would win out. The efficiency would be better, and I prefer. I mean, especially if you travel overseas and you see the size of most pickup trucks outside of America, they're not that big. Most trucks outside of the United States are more like Toyota Tacoma sized. They're most of them are not F-150 size. That's a very American thing. which unfortunately is the bestseller. So the Cybertruck is trying to rival the bestseller. That's why it looks like um, it it looks so big, is because it's kind of filling out the gaps that the F-150 doesn't fill, right? So, uh, but just because that's what sorry, I know the bit rate took a dive there. Hopefully it stabilizes. Thank you for 4 months of support, by the way, from Jackson. Heard someone in a video call the old Model 3 frog looking. Don't know how that conclusion was made. I've heard that too. It's not the first time I've heard it. Um, but yeah, I still like the look. I'm a big fan of the Model 3. Honestly, I talked a lot off the record with Rivian Mike uh, the last couple days we hung out, and he also owns a Model 3 rear-wheel drive, just like I do. And he was like, I was talking about the Rivian and how cool it is and how capable it is, and still he was like, yeah, but but that Model 3 really is just like a perfect car. He was like, I still am impressed by just how reliable it is, how small it is, and how comfortable it is. It just works. And he was flattering me for making the purchase on that one. He was just like, yeah, the Model 3s just make too much sense. Um, so even the Rivian owners, even the Rivian owners, I think can appreciate. I think what Rivian did that was smart was they made vehicles that Tesla was not making, and I still kind of feel that way. Even with the Cybertruck coming out, I tend to agree more with RJ. I know not everybody does, but I don't really think there's that much cross shopping going on. I'm sure there's some cross shopping. Someone saying, "Do I want a Rivian or do I want a Cybertruck?" But I know a lot of people that would just be interested in the Rivian and not the Cybertruck, and vice versa. I know a lot of people that want the Cybertruck that would never even consider a Rivian. Um, so yeah, I think they kind of fit different markets. I don't think there are similarities. Obviously, they're both electric pickup trucks, but the design language could not be more different from each other. They're so different, and I feel like the Rivian definitely has more of an off-roading mindset. It's a smaller proportions. The Rivian has the gear tunnel. The Cybertruck does not. The Cybertruck has a 6.5 foot bed. The Rivian doesn't. The Cybertruck's probably going to charge faster than the Rivian. Um, there's just differences, and now there's a big software advantage to the Rivian with all that off-roading stuff. We'll see if Tesla can make, and there's more Rivians just out. There's just more on the market. Um, we got to play around with the new Rivian software update yesterday, which was a lot of fun. I did not realize until I filmed that video how hot the electric motors get. Like the Rivian quad motors, we were monitoring the temperatures for them, and they were like, in the 140, 150 degrees, and that was medium. Like the motor temperature down here has a little gauge. Red is too hot. And they were at like the white line, and they were 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was like, dang, like how hot are these supposed to get? I guess that's normal. I don't have a temperature gauge on my Model 3 motor. Maybe it gets really hot and I have no idea. But yeah, they're designed to do that. That's acceptable. They're designed for that. I guess I just didn't realize it was that hot. It's kind of interesting. But what's funny is with all of our driving around, we floored the Rivian, we did off-roading with it, and we went up hills with it, big hills, and we still could not get the battery pack to get very hot. The motors, yes, the motors got hot, but definitely not the battery pack. The battery pack stayed around 72 degrees like the entire time. Why the poles are in light mode even though I'm in dark mode all the time? No idea. YouTube is weird. But yeah, honestly, assuming both vehicles have NACS in the supercharger network, at this point, due to just dimensions alone, I think I would prefer the Rivian R1T if I had to get a pickup truck. I like the design a lot. It's very aesthetically pleasing. I like the Cybertruck too, but I also, just from experience with customers, I love that the Rivians get a guide, and it feels like the customer support and the communication between the customers. Maybe because it's a younger company, maybe that'll change in the future when they get bigger. But I just I don't like big cars. I've driven them around before, and I want I want the dimensions to be as small as possible so that I can park in tight spaces and I don't feel like a giant tank on the road. So the Cybertruck is probably going to feel like a giant tank. I haven't driven one yet. Of course, I'll make a video hopefully one day when I do. Um, Josiah Beck says electric motors I work with get up to 220 degrees Celsius before they mechanically protect themselves and shut off. That's amazing. That is so cool that they can get that hot routinely and it doesn't really cause many problems. Like there's so little things that really go wrong with the electric motor. There's not much to it. It's just putting that temperature gauge there makes you think a little bit more about it. Like, oh, yeah, those things are down there just burning hot and it's totally fine. They're designed for that. But I I like the frunk space on the Rivian as well, even though it doesn't open down below like the Lightning does. I'm trying to think if there was a way for them to redesign the frunk on the Rivian to open Lightning style, where like the bottom half opens. I don't know. Those headlights are kind of placed in a way that it would be tricky. Maybe if you expanded the frunk to go past this line and around the headlights, but I think there's some rules on the headlights moving. Huh. There's probably a way they could tweak it, even if it just opened up down the middle right here and the headlights stayed in space and only the daytime running light goes up. Also, while I was driving to San Francisco yesterday, I saw my favorite Rivian color, Red Canyon. So I asked my wife to whip out the camera and record a video of it for me because I was following him for quite some time. At first, I was just like, man, this truck looks cool. But then after a while, I'm like, man, he's still right next to me. I want to get a video of this because it looks awesome. Really, really nice color. I don't think the video does it justice. It looks better in person. Okay. What would your best option be for driving a Cybertruck? Just demo drive or know someone who's going to get it? Oof, yeah. It really depends on the person, I guess. I suppose do what I do. Have a YouTube channel and try to reach out to as many Cybertruck people as possible. Uh, I don't think there's going to be demo drives for quite some time. I remember when Tesla first dropped the Plaid Model S refresh and everything, and you couldn't demo drive that thing for like 6, 7 months. So I don't think there's going to be that many Cybertrucks available to demo. They're not trying to convince more people to buy Cybertrucks. So there's not much incentive to allow for demo drives, um, because then you have to keep around a model just for demo driving and you could sell that model and make more money that way. So because I don't think Tesla is worried about, oh, are there people who want to buy the Cybertruck? They're just accepting, okay, there's plenty of demand for this. Maybe down the road when we catch up on all of the fanboy demand where like all the Tesla fans all get their Cybertrucks, then they can start working the pricing down and start maybe putting them in more service centers or delivery centers so people can check them out, sit in them, and then later on maybe do demo drives and stuff like that. But yeah, um, for the first year, my guess is it's going to be easier to just probably going to be much easier to just find someone, make good friends with someone who's planning on taking delivery of one, and then hope that they let you drive it. Honestly, I don't even think you necessarily need to drive it. Just ask if you can ride in the passenger seat. That gives you a lot of the idea of what it's like, honestly. Like on Friday, I got to sat in the passenger seat of the Rivian R1S and we drove around in it a lot. And then yesterday he let me actually drive it. Whoa. You don't need to do that, iPhone. Why are we connecting to weird? Um he let me drive it. The experience was not terribly different. You know, you can just kind of see how they're handling it, how quickly it accelerates, and the turning radius, and that you don't necessarily have to drive in it. Just maybe knowing someone who has one, and then you can ride around in it. That's probably close enough. Um, okay, we got 2 minutes to go until the earnings call. So why don't I get it queued up here? We'll go to Tesla.com. Yes, you will be able to hear it, by the way. They're already live. Probably playing music. Oh, I'm muted here. Yep. Don't want to get copyright claim, so I'm keeping it muted for now. And we can react to it together, which should be fun. Actually, I have a way to capture the original live stream audio now, so I might just shut up and mute myself and just type in the chat so that you guys can hear everything going on. Or should I talk through it? What do you prefer? High tech unboxing. There's a lot of people watching, but not as many people talking, which is fine. I don't mind lurkers, but I want to know what is the most entertaining I can be for you. Haystick says, I'll head out now. I'll read the news on X tomorrow. All right, have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. By the way, the earnings call can be listened to by anybody. You just go to YouTube and go to Tesla's YouTube channel, and it's there. So it's not like I have some kind of secret access. All right. Josiah says just type in the chat, so that works. I'll start listening just to hear. Okay. Keep it kind of down low so that when they start talking, I'll know to shut up. But expectations are low for the call, just for the record. I don't think we're going to get that much news. I think the biggest news of the day has probably already been dropped, which is Cybertruck delivery event, Cybertruck annual installed capacity. That's the most interesting news. That's the most exciting stuff. So we'll just focus on that. People are saying a bit of both. Oh. Music stopped. Sing to us. This was. When will Highland 3 delivery start for the US? No one knows. They're going to ask them on the earnings call. I don't think they're going to answer it. Rumors are next year. Rumors are it's not going to be ready this quarter. And there's no mention of the refreshed Model 3 in the shareholder deck at all. So my guess is not that soon. Don't talk if only I want to. Let the masses decide. Talk. We need another poll. Hold on. I'll do it here. Wow, no one's talking, but the live stream is rolling. Should I speak during the call? Okay. I hope I got the stream. Yeah, it says it's playing. I'm going to refresh it. There's no music. Something wrong with my computer? Who's playing music, right? Weird. 12,000 people.
New factories, and we believe there's still meaningful room for improvement there.
Was Elon muted the whole time?
Regarding Autopilot and AI, our vehicles now driven over 500 million miles with FSD beta, full self-driving beta.
Restart it. We didn't hear that.
We recently completed a 10,000 GPU cluster H100s. We think probably bringing it into operation faster than anyone's ever brought that much compute per unit time into production, since training is the fundamental limiting factor on progress with full self-driving and vehicle autonomy.
Here we go again. Is it almost done again?
We're also seeing significant promise with FSD version 12. This is the end-to-end AI where it's photon count in, controls out.
This one's gonna be perfect.
Really, you can think of it as just a large bit stream coming in and a tiny bit stream going out. Compressing reality into a very small set of outputs, which is actually kind of how humans work. The vast majority of human data input is optics from our eyes. And so we are.
And we suck at driving, so that's good.
Photons in, controls out.
Humans are bad at driving. This is how humans drive. Let's do that.
It's very interesting to think about that. We will continue to invest significantly in AI development.
That's a Mac OS transition, not a OBS transition.
A massive game changer,
by the way.
And I mean, success in this regard in the long term, I think, has the potential to make Tesla the most valuable company in the world by far. If you have fully autonomous cars at scale,
have you heard this yet?
Fully autonomous humanoid robots that are truly useful.
What? Elon, I've never heard this idea before. Robots make money? What?
Regarding energy storage, we deployed 4 gigawatt hours of energy storage products in Q3. And as this business grows, the energy division is becoming our highest margin business. Energy and service now contribute over $500 million to quarterly
That says more about the car margins, but
The
yeah,
Cybertruck, I know a lot of people are excited about the Cybertruck. Yeah, I am too. I've driven the car. It's an amazing product.
he sounds excited.
I do want to emphasize that there will be uh, enormous challenges in reaching volume production with the Cybertruck, and then in making a Cybertruck cash flow positive. This is simply normal for when you've got a product with a lot of new technology, or any new vehicle, brand new vehicle program,
Why it's
especially
expensive.
one that is as different and advanced as the Cybertruck, you will have problems proportionate to how many new things you're trying to solve at scale. So I just want to emphasize that while I think this is potentially our best product ever, and I think it is our best product ever, it is going to require immense work to reach volume production and be cash flow positive at a price that people can afford.
Which
Often people do not understand what is truly hard. That's why I say prototypes are easy, production is hard. People think it's the idea where you make a prototype, you design a car, and as soon as they're designing a car is just anyone can do it. It does require taste. It does require effort to design a prototype. But the difficulty of going from a prototype to volume production is like 10,000% harder to get to volume production than to make the prototype in the first place.
it
And then
requires
it's even
taste,
harder than that
lucid,
to reach positive cash flow. That is why there
glares
have
at
not
Peter.
been new car startups that have been successful for 100 years, apart from Tesla. So, I just want to temper expectations for Cybertruck.
Me too, Elon. Me too. It's gonna be
It's a
hard.
great product, but financially, it will take a year to 18 months before it is a significant positive cash flow contributor. I wish there was some way to that to be different, but that's my best guess.
There you go.
So really, the demand is off the charts. We have over 1 million people who reserve the car. So it's not a demand issue. We have to make it. And we need to make it at a price that people can afford. Insanely difficult things.
What that price
In
is,
conclusion,
we'll never know.
we continue to focus on ramping production while maintaining positive cash flow, and we continue to target and expect to have around 1.8 million vehicle deliveries, as stated earlier this year. The Tesla AI team is, I think, one of the world's best, and I think is actually by far the world's best when it comes to real world AI. I'll say that again. Tesla has the best real world AI team on Earth, period.
You already said it again.
And it's getting better. And lastly, I wanted to thank all of our employees for making a lot of extra effort during uncertain times. Thank you very much for your hard work and the impact that you're making.
Thank you very much, Elon. And our CFO, Vaibhav, had some opening remarks as well.
Thanks, Martin. Our vehicle deliveries in Q3 outpaced production, and we had yet another record quarter of profitability in our energy
Yeah.
business.
He said over 1 million people. A lot of people have more than one Cybertruck reservation. He didn't say 1 million reservations.
Economic uncertainty, higher interest rates, and shifting consumer sentiment. As Elon mentioned, our Q3 operational
He said over 1 million.
and financial performance was impacted by planned downtimes for our factory upgrades. This was necessary to allow for further factory improvements and production rate increases. Despite such factory shutdowns, our cost per vehicle decreased to approximately $37,500. We saw sequential decreases in material costs and freight. Reducing the cost of our vehicles is our top priority.
Sorry.
On the operating expenses front, R&D expenses continue to rise due to Cybertruck prototype builds and pilot production testing, combined with spend on AI technologies like full self-driving, Optimus, and Dojo. We have and will continue to make investments in these areas, and hence our capital expenditure and R&D will continue to grow in the near term. However, Our focus is to continue making investments through positive cash flow from operations. This year itself, we have generated operating cash flows of approximately 8.9 billion and free cash flows of approximately 2.3 billion. Our other businesses are becoming more prominent on a standalone basis, with energy business leading the charge primarily from the growth in megabyte deployments. Our
Megabyte.
services and other businesses
What did he say?
on a year-on-year basis also continue to show positive momentum as we benefit from our growing fleet. As regards our pricing strategy, in addition to what we have shared before, I want to elaborate that most car buying happens with one or other form of financing. And hence, we also view pricing in terms of monthly costs for the customer. And therefore, as interest costs in the US have risen substantially, it has required us to adjust the price of our vehicles to keep the monthly cost in parity. Try to offset such adjustments while our focus on reducing costs. There is an inherent lag in cost reductions, which in turn impacts margins.
Curse you,
To that
feds!
extent, we recently announced a partner vehicle leasing program in the US, whereby you can get a standard range Model Y for as low as $399 a month. In conclusion,
That's
as
less
we
than I'd
navigate
pay
through
for
a
toilet paper.
challenging economic environment, we're focused on reducing costs, maximizing delivery volumes, and continuing making investments in the future, in particular AI and other next generation platforms. We believe this strategy positions us well for the long term. Once again, I would like to thank the Tesla team for their efforts in the last year.
Thank you very much. And now let's go to investor questions.
Here.
The first investor question comes from Craig. How many Cybertruck deliveries do you anticipate for 2024?
It's really hard. It's hard to build. It's really
It's
really
difficult
hard.
to make an accurate guess at this point. Going back to what I said earlier, that the ramp is going to be extremely difficult.
I could do this.
And
It's
like I said, there's no way around that. If you try to make,
really
if
hard.
we're just trying to
So
use the
hard.
copycat vehicle design, of which there are literally 200 models that are slight variations on a theme in the combustion engine world, just distinctions without a difference, then it's really not that hard.
Why is this
If
live
you
stream
want
60
to do
frames a
something
second?
radical and innovative, and something special like the Cybertruck, it is extremely difficult because there's nothing to copy. You have to invent not just the car, but the way to make the car. So the more uncharted the territory, the less predictable the outcome. Now I can say that if you say, well, where will things end up? I think we'll end up with roughly 250,000 Cybertrucks a year. And I don't think we're going to reach that output rate next year. I think we'll probably reach it sometime in 2025.
So they're doing
My
half of
perspective.
their max rate. 125,000 is what that's.
The second question is, can you provide a progress update on the 4680 cell, particularly progress towards performance improvements and cost savings outlined on Battery Day? Thank you.
Sure thing, Martin.
Drew!
4680 cell production in Texas increased 40% quarter over quarter. Congrats to the Texas team for producing their 20 million cell line one. Texas is now our primary 4680 facility. We're heavily focused on quality. Scrap is down 40% quarter over quarter. With the increased volume and yield improvements, cell costs consistently improved month over month within the quarter, although we have a lot more work to do to achieve our steady state goals. And that is our priority. The Cybertruck cell with 10% higher energy than our Model Y cell started production on line 2 in Texas. This quarter, we convert to building 100% Cybertruck cells to simplify and focus the factory as we ramp build 4 lines in phase 1 over the next 3 quarters.
That answers some
Phase 2 of
questions.
The Texas 4680 facility is currently under construction. The additional 4 lines incorporate further capital efficiencies over phase 1, and our target is for them to start producing in late 2024. Lastly, in Cato, we're retooling to enable large-scale pilot runs of our next-generation cell designs. Cato's long-term goal is to be the launch pad for new cells, 1 generation ahead of our mass production facilities, enabling faster iteration and smoother ramp-ups of new designs.
I like that. Probably more intense.
The next question from institutional investors, could you please provide an update on capacity expansion plans for companies' factories in Berlin and Austin, and the opening schedule of Gigafactory Mexico?
What kind of question is that? We're gonna make more cars.
In the Austin factory, the current priority is actually maximize the output from our existing lines, by
Ooh.
laser focus on the efficiency improvements. As always, maintaining a high quality and reducing per unit cost will be as critical as production volume. For Mexico, we're working on infrastructure and factory design in parallel with the engineering development of the new production that will be manufactured there. That's all I can share for now.
Yeah, in Mexico, we're laying the groundwork to begin construction and doing all the long lead items. But I think we want to just get a sense for what the global economy is like before we go full tilt on the Mexico factory. I'm worried about the high interest rate environment that we're in. I just can't emphasize this enough that for the vast majority of people, buying a car is about the monthly payment. And as interest rates rise, the proportion of that monthly payment that is interest increases naturally. So that's if interest rates remain high, or if they go even higher, it's that much harder for people to buy the car. They simply cannot afford it. And we are tracking, I believe, at this point for Model Y to be the best-selling car on Earth, but not just in revenue, but in unit volume. If you compare that to the other vehicles that are, number 2 and number 3 and whatnot, they cost much less than our car. So, we're just hitting law of large numbers situations here. I know people want us to advertise, and we are advertising. I think there is something to be gained on the advertising front. I don't think it's nothing. But informing people of a car that is great that they cannot afford doesn't really help. So that is really the thing that must be solved, is to make the car affordable, or the average person cannot buy it for any amount of money, or they simply can't afford it. They can't afford it. So this is a big deal.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is, when do you expect Model 3 Highland to be available in the US? I just wanted to address that, unfortunately, we don't answer product-related questions and timings on earnings calls, so let's go to the next one.
Called it.
Current sell-side consensus assumes that Tesla will deliver 2.3 million vehicles in 2024, representing 28% growth versus 2023 guidance. Is this growth rate achievable without any mass market launches in 2024? And when does Tesla expect to return to its 50% long-term CAGR?
Thanks for the question. When we look at 2024, there are a lot of moving pieces. Elon just talked about what is happening in the macroeconomic environment. So we're focused on growing our volumes in a very cost-efficient manner, and are carefully reviewing all our options, and we'll be able to provide a much more meaningful update at our next earnings call.
Yeah, I mean, the risk of stating the obvious, it is not possible to have a compound growth rate of 50% forever, or you will exceed the mass of the known universe. But I think we will grow very rapidly and much faster than any other car company on Earth by far.
Thank you. Next question is, do you have an approximate timeline in mind for the robotaxi, driven or non-driven? What excites you most about how this project is progressing?
Well, the robotaxi is necessarily non-driven. I guess I'm very excited about our progress with autonomy. The end-to-end, nothing but nets, self-driving software is amazing. It drives me all around Austin with no interventions. So, it's clearly the right move. So it's I don't know, it's really pretty amazing. And obviously that same software and approach will enable Optimus to do useful things, and enable Optimus to learn how to do things simply by looking. So, extremely exciting in the long term. As I mentioned before, given that economic output
He
is
sounds depressed.
number of people times productivity, if you no longer have a constraint on people, effectively you've got a humanoid robot that can do as much as you'd like. Your economy is quasi infinite.
Take that, UAW.
Infinite for all intents and purposes. So, and I don't think anyone's going to do it better than Tesla, not by a long shot. Yeah, Boston Dynamics is impressive, but their robot lacks a brain. Sort of like the Wizard of Oz or whatever.
Good man.
Yeah, lacks a brain. And then you also need to be able to design the humanoid robot in such a way that it can be mass manufactured. And then at some point, the robots will manufacture the robots. Now, obviously, we need to make sure that there's a good place for humans in that future, and we do not create some variant of the Terminator outcome. So we're going to put a lot of effort into localized control of the humanoid robot. So basically anyone will be able to shut it off locally, and you can't change that even if you with like a software update. You can't change that. It has to be hard coded.
Thank you. The next question is, why was the price dropped on FSD if it is getting better and robotaxi is expected to sell soon?
Yes, answer this.
Well, we just wanted to make it more affordable, so more people could try it. Yeah, I think over time the price of FSD will increase proportionate to its value.
So it's less valuable now.
Price as a kind of a temporary low.
Thank you.
That was hilarious.
The next question is again on FSD. Mercedes is accepting legal liability for when its level 3 autonomous driving system Drive Pilot is active. Is Tesla planning to accept legal liability for FSD? And if so, when?
They're not going to
Well,
answer.
there's a lot of people that assume we have legal liability, judging by the lawsuits. We're certainly not being let off the hook on that front, whether would like to or wouldn't like to. So,
I mean, I think it's important to remember for everyone that Mercedes' system is limited to a few roads in Nevada and some certain cities in California. It doesn't work in the snow or the fog. It must have a lead car, marked lanes, only 40 miles per hour. Our system is meant to be holistic and drive in any conditions. So we obviously have a much more capable approach, but with those kind of limitations, it's really not very useful.
So don't call it full self-driving.
I think some people understand the profundity of the Tesla AI system. Most people, but very, very few. It's basically baby AGI. It has to understand reality in order to drive. Baby AGI.
Thank you. The next question on Optimus. Will Optimus be working on Gigafactory lines next year? If so, how many would you guess will be deployed?
Stupid question, in my opinion.
I think at this point we are not ready to discuss details of the Optimus program, but we will provide periodic updates online.
Ask questions that we can't
as
answer,
you can
please.
see, where Optimus a year ago could barely walk, and now it can do yoga. So a few years from now, it can probably do ballet.
Sounds good. And the
What's
last
the need to do
question
ballet?
from investors is, neural net path planning represent a significant advance in capability and safety for FSD. What steps is Tesla taking to make this technology available outside the US?
Yeah, our approach has been to try to get it, like the more places we try to make it work, the harder the problem is. So the reason we don't do it in all countries simultaneously is that it would take much longer to make it work anywhere at all. So that's why it's currently just North America. And also for most parts of the world, you have to get approval before deploying things, whereas in the US, you can deploy things at risk, or at least you take liability for what you deploy. So it's whereas most countries require some sort of extensive approval program. So we only want to go through that extensive approval program when we think it's kind of ready for prime time in that country. I apologize that it's not in those countries, but we keep finding ways to make it better, and it needs to drive. It needs to drive such that it exceeds the even unsupervised, significantly exceeds the probability of injury of a human. Or significantly better. It's a lower probability of injury than a human by far. I think we're tracking to that point very quickly. Obviously, in the past, I've been overly optimistic about this. The reason I've been overly optimistic is that the progress tends to sort of look like a log curve, which is that you have kind of rapid initial improvements, and that if you were to extrapolate that sort of rapid, fairly linear rate of improvement, you get to self-driving quite quickly, but then the rate of improvement curves over logarithmically and starts to asymptote. That's now happened several times. I would characterize our progress in real-world AI as a series of stacked log curves.
So it could happen again.
I think that is also true in other parts of AI, like LLMs and whatnot. Series of stacked log curves. Each log curve gets higher than the last one. So if you keep stacking them, keep stacking logs, eventually you get to FSD.
Thank you. Let's now go to analyst questions. The first question comes from Will Stein from Truist. Will, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Great. Thanks so much for taking my question, and thanks for all the updates today. We learned earlier in the call, it sounds like you don't think the truck will ramp to significant volume until its third year of production. Should we have a similar anticipation for the ramp of the next-gen platform, or is there any reason that we should be maybe more optimistic or pessimistic about the ramp profile there? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, it's not really the third year of production. It's kind of like the 18th month of production is roughly my guess. So it's just that it'll happen is that it starts this year, spans next year, and gets to 2025. So technically there are 3 calendar years in there, but there's actually only 18 months, not 3 years. I would be very disappointed if it took us, and that would be shocking if it took us 3 years. But 18 months from initial deliveries to reach volume and reach prosperity with an immense, I can't tell you how much the blood, sweat, and tears level required to achieve that is just staggering. I've been through it many times. And then here we go again.
Similar path for the next-gen platform?
I mean, there's like unique complexity to Cybertruck.
Yeah. I mean, Cybertruck is. Yeah, I mean, we dug our own grave with Cybertruck. Nobody, in general, nobody digs their grave better than themselves, and so
it is Cybertruck is one of those special products that comes along only once in a long while. And special products that come along once in a long while are just incredibly difficult to bring to market, to reach volume, to be prosperous. It's fundamental to the nature of the newness. So now the sort of high volume, low cost, smaller vehicle is actually much more conventional.
In terms of like the technologies we're putting into it, we didn't have to invent how to bend full hard stainless steel or have mega 9,000 ton castings or the largest hot stamping in the world or new high voltage.
Sounds very unimpressive. I'm excited. Their audio cut out, by the way. That's not me. Their audio just stopped working. Maybe they cut them off because they were killing expectations. You want me to refresh it? I could refresh it. I really don't hear anything, though. I'm very confused. I refreshed the page. My audio output didn't change, but I stopped hearing them.
Quite in the same way as the Cybertruck. I think it will be quite a fast ramp. So as Lars was saying, we're doing everything possible to simplify that vehicle in order to achieve a units per minute level that is unheard of in the auto industry.
Yeah, I mean, the simplification makes it easier to automate. It also makes it lower cost.
Yeah,
like it's the intrinsically lower cost.
Yeah. Let's be clear: it'll be cool, but it's utilitarian. It's not meant to be, fill you with, awe and magic. It's to get you from A to B. And it'll be still beautiful, but it's utilitarian. It's a utility.
Doesn't have 14 inches of travel on its suspension.
Yeah, as an example. Yeah. So, I mean, the Cybertruck has a lot of bells and whistles.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go to Pierre Ferragut from New Street Research.
Hey, can you hear me fine? Yes?
Yes.
Hey, I have first like a follow-up question on FSD and pricing and adoption. So I agree with you that as FSD improves, we should see its value increasing. But I guess like the ultimate value of FSD, which is to be able to handle like a robo-taxi, is not going to necessarily interest everybody, and you have a bit of a degraded version that would be like a chauffeur service where the car drives by itself, but you still have to be in the car and around. And then there is like the hands-on, eyes-on version of the service. And I guess, there should be like much lower cost, lower feature kind of variants of the service that could have a very large penetration on your install base and more expensive one that would remain at a lower penetration level. So I'm just wondering if you're taking that. And last but not least, like the simplest version of FSD are available and are going to work from a technical perspective probably before like the ultimate robotaxi version can work, if ever. And so I'm wondering how you take that into account in how you're thinking like the financial contribution of FSD over time, and whether you could evolve your pricing along that kind of tiers to increase adoption.
Yeah, I mean, a fully autonomous vehicle, I think here sort of the economics of a fully autonomous vehicle are truly astounding in a positive way. When you look at passenger vehicles today, they only get about 10 to 12 hours of usage per week. That's if you drive an hour and a half a day on average,
Here we go.
that's roughly 10 hours a week out of 168 hours. And then there's also you got to have parking and insurance. You got to take care of the car. It's like there's a lot of overhead. So, I mean, yeah, it's like the economics of the system are just insanely positive. If given that the car, like all of the cars we're making and have made for a while, we believe are capable of full autonomy. So then if you're able to say increase the utility of that car by a factor of 5, which still only means that it's being used for maybe 50 hours a week out of 168. So you're still assuming that still assumes less than a third of the hours of the week it is doing something useful. You've increased the value of that by 5, but it still costs the same. Like you have something, then we're a hardware company with software margins.
Pierre, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I'd have actually a follow-up on a different topic for you, Vaibhav, if that's okay. It's about like your gross margin in the quarter. Could you give us a sense of like in how the gross margin evolved sequentially? How much was the impact of idle costs? How much was like the sequential benefit, I imagine, of production ramping at Berlin and Austin? And then I saw like this massive jump in energy storage, very strong positive surprise. So if you can give us the background on that and tell us, how we should think about that gross margin going forward.
Pierre, thanks for that question. So in terms of, you have a few different aspects of your question. So if I just look at from Q3 perspective, obviously factory idle time had an impact. It did impact by, I won't give you the exact percentage, but it had decent impact for the quarter. And, when you look at the other pieces which we're trying to do, we did see certain of our other factories ramping up pretty well, right? And they actually contributed pretty well to the margin for this quarter. In fact, one of the factories came pretty close to, in terms of per unit costs, to where we are for one of our other established factory, which is Fremont. So that was a positive in the quarter. And when it comes to energy margins, Megapack deployment was the key driver there. And that product has done well. On the cost curve also, we've been able to do a lot there. But I do want to caution that, Megapack deployments are a bit lumpy. So yes, we had a great quarter this period, but depending upon where we are trying to deploy that product in different markets, you would see periods wherein there would be downward pressure on deployment because of us trying to get the product to the exact place where
product in transit. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Rod Lash from Wolfe Research. Rod, feel free to unmute yourself.
Thanks. Really nice to see the rate of vehicle cost improvement despite the downtime that you took. You've taken now about $2,000 out of the average vehicle cost over the past year. Can you give us maybe a sense of the rate of improvement that you see from the changes that you alluded to, the factory changes you alluded to? Is there a way maybe to convey the speed of improvement on your existing product from here? And then related to that, can you share the timing of your next gen, the lower priced product that you talked about earlier this year?
Yeah, so just in terms of product margins, there are lots of puts and takes when you look into this. There are certain things which we control, and there are certain things which we don't control. We expect that we'll get some benefits from our cost reduction efforts, which are all underway. But on the other hand, we just finished our factory upgrades late in Q3. Some of these factors are still in the early ramp phase in Q4. We're still not up to where we want those factories to be, so they'll impact in the near term. Plus, like Elon mentioned, we're going to be ramping Cybertruck, which is going to be another headwind which we'll be dealing with. On top of all that, there's overall uncertainty in the macroeconomic environment, which even makes it harder to predict precisely as to where we land. But yes, this is something which, it's an evolving thing which we're observing every day and reacting to it on a daily basis.
I would just say that on the cost reduction efforts, like we are unflagging in our pursuit of additional cost downs for 2024. We do have a good pipeline of them in work on both the engineering side and the factory operations side. And our intention is to like maintain or exceed the trend that you saw. We're trying as hard as we possibly can.
The timing of the next gen product, can you share that?
Not at this time.
Okay, and just as a follow-up, obviously price is also a driver of demand, but that's obviously not happening in a vacuum. And you mentioned that, I think you mentioned it at some point during this call that you're also maybe hitting the law of large numbers on some of your products. Can you just share how you're thinking about price elasticity just at this point and in this macro environment, and any thoughts along those lines?
I think that there's very significant price elasticity. I mean, to be totally frank, if our car cost the same as a RAV4, nobody would buy a RAV4. Or at least they're very unlikely to.
You'd be surprised.
It's worth noting that a lot of these incentives, like the tax credit and whatnot, they're actually very difficult for the average person to access because most people do not have 10 grand, or even $7,500 burning a hole in their bank account. Large number of people are living paycheck to paycheck, and with a lot of debt. They've got credit card debt, mortgage debt. So yeah, that's reality for most people. It's sometimes difficult for people who are high income earners, and I'd say high would be like someone who's earning over $200,000 a year, to understand what life is like for someone who is earning $50,000 or $60,000 or $70,000 a year, which is most people. So that, like, for a lot of people, like these tax credits just they can't front $7,500 for 18 months or even 6 months to get for the tax credit, and they actually don't in some cases even have that. They don't have $7,500 in taxes. So it's really just
It goes to point of sale though next year, right?
How much money do they have to pay immediately, and how much per month? That's it. And you can stop right there. And our car is still much more expensive than a RAV4 when you look at it that way.
Yeah, one other thing which I'll add, when you look at, car buying in general, we're trying to get to the next set of EV adapters. And
not an EV adapter, just
next.
Who wants a great car?
Exactly.
It's not a, sometimes you get these like, honestly, I'd say it's like somewhat correlates with the why doesn't everyone work from home crowd. I'm like, I mean, this is like some real Marie Antoinette vibes from people that say, why doesn't everyone work from home? Like, what about all the people that have to come to the factory and fill the cars? What about all the people that have to go to the restaurant and make your food and deliver your food? It's like, what are you talking about? I mean, how detached from reality is the work from home crowd have to be? while they take advantage of all those who cannot work from home.
I don't see how this relates to the question.
I mean, you have to say, like, why did I sleep in the factory so many times? Because it mattered. So I just can't emphasize how important cost is. It's not an optional thing for most people. It is a necessary thing. We have to make our cars more affordable so people can buy it. And I keep harping on this interest thing, but I mean, it just raises the cost of the car. I mean, we're looking at an internal analysis, which we think is more or less on track. That when you look at the cost or the price reductions we've made in, say, the Model Y, and you compare that to how much people's monthly payment has risen due to interest rates, the price of the Model Y is almost unchanged.
If you factor in the change in interest rates.
Yes, which is that's what I'm trying to say. The thing that matters is the monthly pay. It's how much money do they have to put down, and do they literally have that in their bank account, or will the check bounce? And then what is the monthly payment? And it doesn't matter if that monthly payment is principal, interest, or whatever. It's just a number, and that number has to not cause their bank account to go negative. That's it. So going from near zero interest rates to the current very high interest rates, the actual monthly payment is basically the same. It's just a bunch more of it is going to interest. And there are some incremental challenges beyond that, which is the difficulty of getting credit at all has increased. And so the number of people who simply cannot get credit, period. Even if they've got a job and everything's solid, the banks are, a little gun shy on handing out credit, given that a bunch of them kicked the bucket earlier this year.
Yeah, there's also just fewer options. Even if they want to hand out credit, there's fewer banks to go to.
It's like, does your bank still exist?
Yeah.
Well, if your bank does not exist, you have to establish a relationship with a new bank. So a lot of regional banks are, died, and I mean, even Credit Suisse. I mean, geez, that was a shocker. Got a 160-year-old-ish Swiss institution that doesn't exist anymore. That's mind-blowing. And I think there's still quite a few shoes to drop on the bad credit situation. Commercial real estate obviously is in terrible shape. Credit card debt has been rising significantly. The credit card interest rates are usurious. Over 20% interest rates, meaning which over time it becomes obviously extremely punishing. Because if somebody's paying 20% interest on their credit cards, it means they cannot pay them off. Now, if you cannot pay them off and you're still accruing interest at 20%, that's headed to a bad place.
Thank you. Let's go to next question from George from Canaccord.
Thank you for taking my question. Just to focus on the cost per vehicle, coming down in future quarters, as you discussed in your written remarks. I'm curious as to what the levers of that could be. Is it more scale, more factory utilization? Is it material cost reductions? Are there things like gigacasting? I mean, can you just kind of give us some data points to give us confidence that that's going to come down over time? And if I can sneak one in, please. There are press reports, and I know how perilous it is to believe some of these, but they say that you've included radar as an option in some Model Ys in China, and I'm just here to ask if that's true, and if so, why? Thank you.
We've not included radar. We have radar as a Tesla designed radar as an experiment in the Model S and X. That's it. We'll see whether that experiment is worth it. but there are no plans to integrate radar into 3 and Y. Just as humans drive well, and in fact, an excellent human driver can drive with amazing safety simply with their eyes. The car will far exceed the average human safety just with vision, far.
You don't know that,
because I mean the
Elon.
car is looking in all directions at once, and we don't have eyes in the back of our head.
We can move our eyes though.
And the computer never gets tired, and never gets distracted, get drunk, hopefully. So radar is, it's not. What really matters is how much does it affect the probability of an accident. And in order for the radar to be effective, you have to be able to do radar-only braking, or you have to do actions that are radar-only. Otherwise, you get this disambiguation problem between vision and radar. That's why we actually turned off the radar in cars historically that we had. All 3 and Y used to have radar, but we turned it off because the radar actually generated more noise than signal. Now, the Tesla designed radar is a high-resolution radar that has some potential to be useful, but the jury is still very much out on whether that is in fact the case.
On the cost question, I guess from the vehicle side, like, as Drew mentioned earlier, we are always trying to engineer our products to be cheaper to make and more efficient to make. That comes obviously on the engineering side as we come up with new innovations, but as well on the supply chain side with our partners. We work with them to automate some of their lines, remove their bottlenecks and their high costs as well. On the logistics side, getting parts to the factory. It's not go ahead. It's not like a one thing that you have to attack cost everywhere, and we do it ruthlessly at all times.
Operations efficiency, all of the above.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a whole laundry list of things which we are chasing. We internally call it the cost attack, where we're literally going line by line and saying, how can we make it better? And it's a grind.
The grind.
It's time.
It's
a game
of pennies. It's like Game of Thrones, but pennies. First approximation, if you've got a $40,000 car, and roughly 10,000 items in that car, that means each thing on average costs $4. So in order to get the cost down, say by 10%, you have to get 40 cents out of each part on average. It is a game of pennies.
We play it willingly.
We play it.
Yeah,
religiously.
We've done it many times. Even something as simple as like a sticker. Like there's too many stickers internally in the car that nobody ever sees. There's something as simple as a QR code. You might think, well, putting a QR code on part, why not just put them on there? It's like, well, are we actually going to use that QR code?
Costs a penny.
Yeah, exactly. And then inevitably, sometimes the QR code doesn't go on properly, or you can't read it properly, and then it stops the line.
The car is too expensive because of stickers.
Absolutely.
So
it's chipping away with it. I mean, it does feel like digging a tunnel with a spoon at times.
Very much escaping prison.
Yeah.
On top of it, like we said, we did some factory upgrades, so we expect volume to go up. That would also bring some savings from higher production. But then on the flip side, we're going to be ramping a new product like Cybertruck, which we talked about. So those are the real puts and takes which we are working through.
Yeah, but there's not like some accidentally, some brick of gold that we've shot in the car, unfortunately. And it's, we're trying to be very rigorous about improving the quality and capability of the car, because it's like any fool can reduce the cost of a car by making it worse, and just deleting functionality and capability, and that's how cool this sort of the any fool. It's like if you want to lose weight and you say, well, I need to lose whatever 15 pounds right away. Well, you could chop your arm off, but then you're sitting there with one arm. You're still fat. so sort of like, yeah,
You gotta work on it.
yeah, you actually have to eat less food and work out. That's the actual way. And
Doctor's advice.
yeah, it's not, super fun because food is delicious. And I personally am not I don't love working out. I know some people do. I wish I did, but I don't. Unless moving the mouse consists of working out, in which case I love moving the mouse.
All right. Let's
Elon
go
said he'd
to
only come for
Colin Langan
emergencies.
from Wells Fargo. Colin, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, sorry about that. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thanks for taking my question. You said in the commentary that you're not going full tilt on the plant in Mexico until there's signs that the economy is strong. Can you continue at a 50% CAGR without that plant? And where would that come from? And any color on what you mean sort of not going full tilt? Could that plant get delayed indefinitely? Or what are we kind of talking about?
That's a decent question.
No, we're definitely making the factory in Mexico. We feel very good about that. We put a lot of effort into looking at different locations, and we feel very good about that location. And we are going to build a factory there, and it's going to be great. The question is really just one of timing, and I'm just going to be a broken record on the interest front. It's just the interest rates have to come down. Like if interest rates keep rising, you just fundamentally reduce affordability. It is just the same as increasing the price of the car. So I just don't have visibility into. If you can tell me what the interest rates are, I can tell you when we should build the factory. We're going to build it, and I think we'll start the initial phases of construction next year. But I am still somewhat scarred by 2009 when General Motors and Chrysler went bankrupt. So, well, that's now 14 years ago. That is seared into my mind with a branding iron. Because Tesla was just hanging on by a thread during that entire time, and when we closed our financing round in 2008 at 6 p.m. December 24th, Christmas Eve, and if we had not closed that financing round, we would have bounced payroll 2 days after Christmas. So we actually closed that round on the last hour of the last day that it was possible. Stressful, to say the least, and then barely made it through 2009. So I'm like, I want to I don't want to be going at top speed into uncertainty. A lot of wars going on in the world, obviously, as well.
And we have room here, like in Giga, Texas. You said we still have room in this building. It's not full with Cybertruck and Model Y, and there's plenty of growth opportunities still to have inside the building where our team already is.
We also have 2,000 acres here.
Yeah, so there's also a bunch more.
We're actually only occupying a tiny corner of the land that we have. So we could technically do all the scaling necessary just here. Personnel is our biggest challenge in that the greater Austin area only has, generously, the greater Austin area only has 2 million people. So people are moving here and they're willing to move here, but there is somewhat of a housing crisis. They got to live somewhere. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, so I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm not saying things will be bad. I'm just saying they might be, and I think Tesla is an incredibly capable ship, but it is. But if we need to make sure, if the macroeconomic conditions are stormy, even if the best ship is still going to have tough times, the weaker ships will sink. We're not going to sink. but even a great ship in a storm has challenges. Now that storm will apply to everyone, not just us, and not just the auto industry. It apply to everyone, I think. So apart from necessary sort of staples like food and stuff, but so I don't know. If interest rates start coming down, we will accelerate.
All right.
If anybody's got any guesses on this, I'd love to be less wrong. And I apologize if I'm perhaps more paranoid than I should be, because that might also be the case, because I have PTSD from 2009, big time. And in 2017 through 19 were not picnic either. That was very tough going. So,
maybe life is just hard.
It's also somewhat cyclic. It's because people tend to hesitate to buy a new car, if there's uncertainty in the economy. So it's car companies do very well in good economic times, and they don't do as well in tough economic times. So it's just whereas if somebody's selling bread, then I think that people still need to have bread. Yeah. Yeah, you need bread. You need food all the time, but new car you don't have to have right this minute.
Especially if there are wars going on, and then that impacts your sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, if people are reading about wars all over the world, buying a new car tends to not be front of mind.
All right. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. Thank you very much for all of your good questions, and we'll see you again in 3 months. Thank you very much.
So the demand is weakened because of the wars. I guess that makes sense. Let me switch back. Hey, now that works. What the heck? That used to not work before. All right. Well, as I expected, earnings call was not too eventful. The one little nugget of news that will probably make, I got to do a recap video now. Not even a recap. It's more just Cybertruck video. We got a delivery event. We got some new info. And I just wanted to put it together in a little video so that people know what the big updates are and they don't have to sit through the whole earnings call. But the one little nugget that I liked was Drew Baglino said that they have completely transitioned Giga Texas to building the Cybercell. So that's why we no longer are seeing the 4680 Model Y. That answers that question. My speculation was correct on that. They stopped making that first generation cell. And he also gave a little bit more information on the Cato Road facility, which is apparently always working on the next gen cell. So while they've agreed on a Cybercell design for the first generation Cybertruck, they're also working on a newer generation cell, which will probably be a combination of, yes, energy density improvements while also trying to improve on the cost, like making them affordable to build. So Giga Texas is building nothing but Cybercells now, and the annual capacity is pretty high. And then the next generation 4680 cell is being prototyped in the Cato Road facility, and they plan to build that at scale at Giga Texas. I believe he said end of 2024. Hopefully I understood all that correctly. That's the most interesting information to me. I'm sorry, I have no interest in the robotaxi stuff. I've just heard Elon push the exact same terminology for so many years now and seen nothing really change in regards to liability. They don't want to assume liability. When asked if they'll assume more liability, they just kind of laugh and say, well, people sue us anyway. It's like, okay, so are you just going to keep requiring our hands on the wheel as long as someone threatens to sue you? Because that kind of defeats the full self-driving question. There were Cybertruck questions, but they couldn't give, as I expected, they couldn't give very definitive answers. Someone asked how many Cybertrucks they expected to build in 2024, and Elon, like usual, basically said, it's really hard. It's so hard. It's 10,000% hard. It's very hard. It's incredibly hard. It's very difficult. I cannot stress this enough. It's very hard. Said the exact same thing I've heard for 6-7 years. It's still true. It's still, I believe that it's hard and it's difficult, but it's just, I don't know. In my opinion, there's a shorter way to do it. I know I am one to talk because I stretch simple topics and simple videos into much longer than they probably need to be, but I get paid by the watch time minute, right? So my brain is encouraged to extrapolate and speculate and dive deeper into subjects. If you're doing an earnings call, you're not getting paid by the minute. You're just wasting people's time, I feel like, if you keep repeating the same information. If you're running a YouTube channel trying to keep people up to date on your thoughts and opinions and the news, then yeah, repeating some information that you've already said before is probably more motivating and more justified. Don't rush to buy Tesla. Prices will come down further. That was my biggest take. Oh no, that's probably not what they wanted you to take away. But did Elon mention the Cybertruck release event date? My feed kept buffering. He did not mention it, but it has been tweeted from the Cybertruck Twitter account and the Tesla official Twitter account. They have now said November 30th. That's the day. So that was the most interesting stuff from it. The interest rates not being great is not a surprise, and the profitability not being as good after price cuts is like, wow, I can't believe they're not as profitable after lowering the prices. I believe the whole interest rate thing. It's just there's not much to say on it because basically the whole earnings call, Elon and Tesla just keep punching up. The feds keep raising interest rates. It sucks. And the banks keep raising interest rates. It sucks. And it's like, yeah, it sucks. But okay, what are we going to do? There's not much to dive into there. So I guess as a YouTuber that's making content, I have a hard time talking much about it. So I'm going to do a video now on the Cybertruck. I got to start recording here, so I'm probably wrap it up. Oh, and yeah, the other news was they finally verbally, officially said, confirmed that there have been over 1 million reservations for the Cybertruck. Actually, he used interesting wording. I don't know how true it is, but he did technically say over 1 million people have reserved the Cybertruck. I'm not sure if he just meant there was over 1 million reservations. Because obviously crowd tracking has said there's over 2 million, but he didn't say there's 1 million reservations. He said over 1 million people. I don't know if he's going by the number of accounts or just the pure number of reservations, but safe to say there's a crazy amount of demand, and the Cybertruck is not going to ramp all that fast because there's so many new technologies implemented in it. So it's amazing. There's a delivery event, but people still don't know what they're going to receive. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be just like the 4680 Model Y delivery event, where it's only to employees and not to actual customers. Tesla Semi delivery event was basically to one customer. Pretty much PepsiCo is the only company to receive the Tesla Semi at this point. So, yeah, I hope that you guys got something valuable out of my reaction. Hopefully, I made you laugh somewhere in there. I tried my best to make it funny, but honestly, it's so dry. If you guys would have voted no, I would have had no problem whatsoever ending the stream earlier because there wasn't that much new information in there, but that's to be expected. At the start of this, I was happy to just get a launch event and date, and we got the date. Okay, I'm happy. I'm excited. I want to talk about that. Let's focus on the positive, right? So thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye bye.